call the roll and verify the presence of a quorum and acknowledge the assigned minute taker, please also.
See Donna Keats,
Present.
you, David Titzel,
Here.
thank you, Hal Taylor. Not present at this time, Stacy Shin. Not present at this time, Audrey Keller. Present. Sean McCoy,
Present.
Patrick Fisher,
Here.
thank you. Berman Schoenberg is not here today, Stan Dowdy. Here. Thank you. Mimi Fuji Strickler is not here today, and Kristen Montan.
Here.
Thank you. Madam Chair, you have a quorum of the Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Oh.
Can you also call
Oh, yes.
all the three of us
Council Liaison Naomi Dewar
here?
and Staff Liaisons Jennifer Alvarez and Mackenzie.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So moving to item 2, opening public comment. You too.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings. https://links.reno.gov/4FZTE3M. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time.
Are there any participants who'd like to give public comment today?
Call the Zoom first.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to give public comment today?
All right, there are no public comment via Zoom, but we do have some in person. Our first public comment is Brian Block.
This is spot right
Right
there.
there.
Thank you.
I don't really have a comment. I have more of a question. I have a crosswalk in my neighborhood that does not connect to a sidewalk. And I am looking for the best way to get a sidewalk built near Skyline and Sharon Way, about 200 feet to connect the crosswalk to an existing sidewalk about 200 feet to the east on Skyline. And I'm wondering if this group can tell me what the best way is to try to make that happen.
Well, sir, I can give you a hand. I'm the council member for the area. And what you do is you submit a Reno direct request. So do you know that email?
Yes.
Okay. And then you precisely explain where you'd like the sidewalk.
Right.
What I don't know in that area, so for example, there's some sidewalk going in along Plumas near the golf course.
Right.
The way that's going in is that I worked with Alexis Hill. We jointly sponsored a request to RTC, who got a grant, a federal grant that came into RTC and then was allocated to that project. It's being done in 2 phases. First phase was the whole urban, and then down a little bit of Plumas, and then they're doing the second piece of Plumas. But that was a special grant. The city is very short on CIP. That's the capital improvement program. Especially now, this year, next year, and probably the next year. But what people often do that want sidewalks, another approach is they form an SAD just for the sidewalk for the neighbors that live near, and they pitch in over quite a period of time. They set up a SAD agreement. So if you send your request in, someone will follow up and give you the various options on how to go. And that's how they get done.
And what does an SAD stand for?
Sorry, it's a special assessment district. So often sidewalks in neighborhoods are paid by the residents that live near the area. A different approach was near here, we went and replaced whole streets that are over between Virginia Lake and Plumas. We redid about 6 streets, all their sidewalks and everything. And what happens every year is there's a pavement index, that's how good is the pavement. And these things get put on a list and it gets rotated around all of the wards. And so they usually tackle like 3 wards in a year and then they move to another 3. So we had a very big project that these streets hadn't been done in decades or their sidewalks. And so that kind of came in line with the CIP, the construction improvement projects.
Okay,
So there's a variety of ways. You'll have to write in, we'll have to meet with the public works people and see, is that anywhere near scheduled for some update already?
is there a way to find out what the schedule is?
Yes, so the city, I think it is next Wednesday on March 26th, they're going to present the next series of these road improvement projects. And so, and then in your email, if you could ask that you'd like to know what the rotation is, what's coming up next. And by putting in your request, that's the way things get on that list,
Okay, very good.
okay?
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if anyone else
Anybody
wants,
also ask?
Yeah.
RTC presentation today.
sure, I mean, I encourage you to stick around for that, but RTC doesn't usually do these projects, it's the city of Reno. So RTC is sort of our road builder. Then they hand the roads over to the city. The city has to then be the road maintainer. And that's how it goes.
Okay,
So if there's a big project like the Southeast Connector or redoing, some major sector like McCarran, RTC is gonna come in and do it. But then once they're done, McCarran's not a good example because it's an NDOT road, it's not a city of Reno road. But if it's a city of Reno road, which 90% are, then we would either schedule it for something like that or do a special project.
Right, okay.
And for the rest of you that may not know what Reno Direct is, it's a way that we gather requests for addressing things like repairs, potholes, crosswalks, lighted crosswalks, etc., speed bumps, whatever it is. The address is Reno Direct, reno.gov, reno.direct.reno.gov. And you can also copy me. If you copy me, then I know that you've asked for something. Most people actually don't, because they haven't thought it through all the way. But if you copy me, then I can check in periodically and see how it's going.
All right,
Okay.
very good. I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you for being there.
And for a minute taker, I'm gonna let you know that NAB member Stacy Shin is present.
Also, Pat Cassell.
Oh, and Pat Michelle too. Thank you. He's
And
an
also-
alternate, and Michael Johnson.
I was gonna say we need to change that to Pat.
Thank you. All right, our next public comment is Karen Rates.
Right up here near the microphone so they can hear you on the Zoom. And we can catch you on the recorder and the video. And this thing up here is called an owl and it rotates, so it goes to who's speaking.
Well, I'd like to discuss the lake ditch behind the Lewis homes, the Lakeside Lewis homes. For 35 years I've lived there, and the lake ditch people come through once a year with their chainsaws and they throw deadwood to the right and deadwood to the left when they clear the middle of the ditch. Well, it's been 35 years and there's 35 years worth of dead wood, dead trees, dead willows in that ditch. And when the high winds hit last month, a lot of it blew to the west of my house down to where Lakeside is, from about the middle of Torrington. And there is one side to the other side, 6 to 8 feet high, maybe 10 feet high of dead wood. Right? And I think it's a huge fire hazard and maybe a little bit of a flooding hazard.
Right.
And I think you're on the lake ditch.
I am.
board,
So-
So I just wanted to, I did call them last month.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
They said, thank you, we appreciate you, we know about it, and we'll bring a chainsaw, and then nothing happened.
Okay, so is it possible that you could follow up with them again? Call them
I
again.
could, but they're gonna need more than a chainsaw, they're gonna need
Obviously.
a huge, big truck.
So what I would
So-
recommend, so for those of you who don't know, the lake ditch is a, it's not a 501c, it's a 501. I mean, it's not a 501c3, it's like a 501c5. It's a nonprofit corporation. And it takes care of the lake ditch. I'm one of the board members. I try to keep those two jobs separate from, the job at the city, which lake ditch has nothing to do with the city, except they have a contract with the city to help pay for maintenance. That is because, just so people know, the lake ditch used to be an irrigation ditch and that's all it was. But now, for like the last 15 years, it's also a stormwater ditch because the city has no other means to take care of stormwater. So they entered into a contract with all three ditches, the lake ditch, the last chance, and the steamboat. And they pay at least half or 2/3 of the maintenance because what causes the challenges mostly in the winter. And that's when the lake ditch is not using the ditch. It's mostly in the winter when we have storms, we have runoff. And so I know they're having a lot of cleanup. And so I just ask you to call again, but you can also send an email to my personal email. I'm happy to give that to you.
Okay,
And it's also listed on the Lake Ditch website. So there's a website, all of the board members are listed there,
okay.
okay?
And at what point do I like contact the fire department if it's not been done?
Well, I would at least make a second call,
Okay,
okay? And see what happens, and then you can make a third call to me, and then I will call, okay?
okay. And you're gonna give me your personal?
Yeah.
Thank you, calling out, appreciate it.
Michael Dixon,
It's actually right on the, let me read it.
Hi, my name is Michael Dixon. I am a member of the very small Arlington Port Homeowners Association. And they're in the process of looking into building a pickleball court in the middle of this very small association. And pickleball is a great sport. I have no problems with it, except there is no place for pickleball in residential areas. It's very loud. It goes pop, 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 because they use hard balls and hard rackets. And in a normal pickleball court, you get maybe 900 to 5,000 of those an hour. A lot. And the sound, the noise level of these things is on the order of 85 decibels, which is above the noise ordinance. But because they're discrete, it's very hard to measure. But what I would like to propose or suggest, request, is that the city put a moratorium on new pickleball courts in residential areas. Other places, the courts on Plumas are fine. The indoor courts are fine, just in residential areas, because they have a negative effect on the quality of life, the quiet enjoyment of your property. And they also have a negative effect on property values. And if you could take a look at it, there have been cities and counties across the country who have allowed pickleball courts and been sued for this, and they lose.
So, sir, can you say approximately where you live, like cross streets?
Arlington Court, it's on off Arlington between Mount Rose and Plum.
Okay. I would like you to do something similar with Reno Direct, but also to make sure you copy me.
Mhm.
And I don't have my cards here today, but can I borrow one of yours? Jen? Do you have one here? If you send me an email, then I can actually do something about this. Forward it on to our Parks and Rec department. And did you say your HOA is building it?
And the HOA has proposed it, they have voted. It's a 6-member HOA. They do not come under NRS 116. Basically, a majority can do what they want.
Okay.
They've also assessed $20,000 of property to build this thing.
So we usually have nothing to do with the operation of an HOA.
I understand.
So, you know, what they do, don't do on their property within their area. So, I don't know, you know, how successful, but
It is at least something that
I'm willing to look
affects
into
the
it.
neighborhood, not only the HOA. But Dartmouth is
Oh.
in that general area,
Okay.
and they are all within 100 feet of the proposed pickleball courts. I was president of an HOA in Las Vegas, so I do understand about the city getting involved. But this is a quality of life thing that the city should be involved in, because it's noise and it moves out from where it started. So it has an effect on more than just the Arlington Court HOA.
Well, here's the email and you could copy Jennifer, she's the liaison. And then make sure you include your phone number.
I will.
Okay,
Thank you very
all
much.
right, thank you for coming.
Thank you for Carla Warning House. Okay, thank you. And that is all the public comment we had, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you all for your comments, and there's no more public comments, we'll proceed to item 8.3, approval of the agenda. Staff liaison, is there any changes to the agenda?
There are no corrections, Madam Chair.
Thank you, can I get a motion to approve the March 18th agenda?
Stand down, you have a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, all in favor? Okay, motion passes.
And
Thank
for
you.
our record, did you say?
Yes,
Dave Tensel, second.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. So motion passes. We'll move on to item A4, approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes from the last meeting? Does anybody want to make any changes? No, no changes. Okay, well, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the February 18th minutes?
Audrey Keller, motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Richard Montan, a second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item, A5, council liaison report, Councilmember Gould.
Well, I want to welcome everyone. It's great to see you. I love the participation in the NAP, get a lot of stuff done. And things get highlighted to us that we're able to address as well. Wanted to just address a couple things that have been sort of current issues. One is data centers. You may have read about it. There was a proposal to add some new regulations to better constrain them or regulate them. We recently, that did not pass. There was a 3-3 tie. And at the time, the mayor said, I'm sure we'll address this as sometime in the future. So what happened then is that there were 3 data centers that were proposed to be built in our area. And 2 of them were appealed to the city council. So they go to the planning commission. And in this case, I'm trying to think, anyway, 2 were appealed. They both were approved with different votes. So the first one was called the Webb Data Center, and it is out in the North Valleys, and it was going to use 30 megawatts of power. Just to give some context, that's the equivalent power of about 20,000 homes. Okay, that's also equivalent power of all the power that would come off the steamboat ditch. Excuse me, I didn't mean the ditch. The steamboat geothermal power plant. Okay, is a 30 megawatt plant. So it just puts it in context for you. They were going to use very little water. I think they were going to be air cooled. When they came to the appeal, 3 of us voted no. That was myself. Well, I think it was actually 2, myself and Megan Ebert, another council member. The others, I believe, voted yes. And anyway, it was approved. The second one that just came to our last meeting. It was called Apaden. And it was going to be much smaller, 5 megawatts instead of 30. But it was going to use 8 acre-feet of water. Many people considered that a lot. I was our former state water planner. I did not consider it a lot. They met with their council member, which was Megan Ebert. They agreed to add a number of conditions to reduce their impact and footprint. That included putting solar on the roof. That included other energy offsets, as I recall. And there were some fencing, there were some mobile home property right next door. So they agreed to put up some fencing to block it. And a few other things, and they made enough movement that both Megan and I, who have voted no on the first one, decided we would vote yes. But during that discussion, well, the impacts, you're questioning that, but the impacts were much less than the other one. It's not that data centers are bad, in my opinion. It's just that we have to understand what the impacts are and manage. So out of that discussion, the mayor offered to have a joint meeting with the planning commission, a special session to talk about data centers and what kind of, if any, requirements or context we should put around them, conditions, future conditions, that kind of thing. There's no date set for that, so it's still upcoming, but that's where that sits now. We have two other pending projects, or three, that I wanted to tell you about. First of all is a proposal to build a Jiffy Lube over on Hunter Lake and Mayberry. And this project has probably generated more correspondence to me in my 11 years on council than anything else. So it's a little corner Jiffy Lube that's near a residential area. And if you know that area, 5 streets come together. RTC at one point recommended a roundabout there. The neighbors nixed it, said they didn't think it would be safe. There's several schools around there. So what I've done is I've arranged, normally the kind of permit they need is called a minor CUP or conditional use permit, minor. Minor means it only goes to the staff. It does not go to the NAP. It does not go to the planning commission. It's considered minor. It met the zoning, etc., minor. However, so many letters have come in, and I'm talking about more letters than I got on Stonegate, more letters than I got on Daybreak, more letters than I got on any project. So I've worked with the applicant, who is in Salt Lake City, to come in here and be part of our April 14th NAP. I believe it's April 14th. Yes, ma'am?
I believe it's April
15th. So it's the Tuesday, April NAP, April 15th. And so I don't know that we're gonna be able to do it in this room because of potential tenants. We're gonna work through that issue. We could end up holding at city council chambers, which has a bigger area for, participants and better sound system, etc. We could also hold it at a third place that I'm still evaluating. The neighbors asked for it out of school. The school presents some challenges with our equipment. I'm still working through those issues, but we have a full month to figure that out. Okay. So that will probably take up some time, depending on how many people come and what the presentation's about at our April NAB meeting. Okay. When I say more, I have personally had gotten around 50, 60 letters about the Jiffy Lube. It turned out at that time, I thought there was maybe 100 had come in. Turns out there was 200. But when a member of the public did a public records request, the clerk told me that there were closer to 300 or 400 letters, maybe 500. And so I don't know if some of those are duplicates, all are initial individual people. I mean, I haven't done that homework. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. I'm trying to reduce the other projects that'll be on our April NAB agenda so we could accommodate, but there probably will be at least one other project, I would guess. Who knows what? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm Bridget Harmon. We've spoken
We have,
about this project.
yes.
It's about 394.
Okay, 394. And I just got, 1 or 2 more last week.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's still coming in. I'm not gonna ask for any more, that we still gonna do the same, but,
Okay. Bridget's been one of the main neighborhood people who's been in contact with me. So moving on to Ranchera. Oh, yes, please,
The gentleman who spoke at the last meeting about,
this project.
Jiffy Lube, said that staff had told him that it's a minor conditional use project. If you can make the findings, you're gonna get it anyway. So what is available?
Well, you have to make the findings.
Right.
It's not
I
automatic.
understand that, but you implied that the reasons that were being given were not sufficient to not meet the findings.
Who was speaking?
I can't remember.
Was it a staff member?
No, it was a public comment.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, that's speculative. I mean, it's up to the staff to decide whether issuing it or not. And then, just so you know, if they are allowed to apply conditions to modify the use or mitigate the impacts that they see. If the public does not agree with that, they have, as they always do, the ability to appeal. The appeal would go to the city council if there was appeal. So I will tell you that the man moved, the Jiffy Lube representative moved the meeting saying he wanted to meet with as many members of the public as possible. So it was originally scheduled, it was gonna come to this meeting. This meeting happens to be during the 2-week school break. And learning that a lot of the residents that live in that area concerned about the project also have kids. We're gonna be on school break. He agreed to wait another 30 days and come to our April meeting. So I thought that was good. I think you thought that was good, Bridget. I want to just touch on 2 more projects that have been here. One is Ranchera. I think they were here at our last meeting. I went out and visited them to the neighborhood meeting. They had a special neighborhood meeting. Audrey was there and probably 35 residents were there, brought up a number of issues. What's that?
Patrick was there.
Patrick was there because he lives within 750 feet and got a postcard. It is interesting that there was a snafu. So usually on these kind of projects, which is modifying a PUD, which is a planned unit development, the developer has to have a separate meeting separate from the NAP. But unfortunately, they received an incorrect list of residents from our planning department. So they sent all these people invitation to a meeting that they don't even live in Ranchera. I have no idea where the list came from. What's that?
I got one.
You got one in Lakeside?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have brought this to the attention of Andy Durling. He was kind of confused about what's happening. I kept saying the post office has not delivered to any neighbor in Ranchera, so that's a problem. But anyway, they went ahead and held that meeting because they sent out an email about a day ahead from the HOA. And I guess about 50 people showed up. But there were some people couldn't come, some people still didn't, you know, and I was one of those. So I went last night. And I understand there was only a few people overlap between the 2 meetings. So call it 80 people have now attended a public meeting about the project. So I am going there tomorrow and I'm gonna meet with them about the project. One of the things for those that have been on the NAB a long time, when the Ranchera PUD first came to us around 2015 timeframe, one of the things I asked them to do was to build a trail on the backside of the development, on the west side of the development, outside their fence, but on their property, along the lake ditch that you just heard about. Build a bridge from Wheatland Park, if you know where that is, over by Huff Acre School, across to this trail. I also, because we had the equestrian center, asked them to build a bridge from Bartley Ranch, you know where that is, over to the trail. So that the residents could ride, you know, there was an equestrian center. It wasn't hardly any resident had a horse there. It was people from all over our region had horses there. And I thought it was a shame that we had one of the few county parks that allowed horses across this little creek from the equestrian center, but they couldn't get there. So that's why I asked them to build a bridge. And eventually those bridges were open. The reason I asked them to build a bridge at Wheatland Park was the school is right there. And what I wanted to prevent was all this driving back and forth on Talbot and McCarran and Kitski to get to the school, get back. That's 4 trips when they could just have their kid walk if there was a bridge. So that happened. And so there are some kids that walk, but I found out more than kids that walk are residents that are crossing those bridges to access either Wheatland Park or Bartley Ranch. Well, new development, I asked when they came last time, when they were going to open up the trail, because it's been built for a long time. And you can access it from Wheatland Park, but you can't access it from Del Monte. So in the last few days, they took the lock off. So after last night's meeting, I went and checked. And while the lock was gone, you could not open the gate, or at least I could not figure it out. And I'm pretty good at opening up gates because I've worked all over Nevada. So I'm meeting them out there tomorrow to get the gate open. And also they talked about putting in bollards, and I've talked to our park staff about putting in signage. So the public will know that this is meant for the public. So there's that. And then finally, I just wanted to say a word about Lake Ridge. That is another project many of you are aware of, came here. It was approved by the planning commission, I believe unanimously. It was appealed by the people that live directly across McCarran from that project. It came to council. I made the motion and we all agreed to continue it to allow the residents to work with the developers to come up to address some of the issues that they found. And some of the issues that they had three main issues. One was the look of the place. Well, they've done a quite a good job in revising that. It looks completely different than the project they submitted. Number two, there was concern about evacuation. So in the case of a fire, how does all this work? And number three, there's a lot of concern about McCarran and about Lakeside and Plumas and the intersections and the traffic congestion, et cetera. So I have been working on that myself with the city staff, RTC, trying to come to some resolution. We're kind of halfway there because it turns out that the widening of McCarran and just that reach is going to be accelerated. So they plan to widen both sides to 3 lanes in the nearer future. They're doing a design right now. They don't have money to build it right now. And again, it's an NDOT street, which means NDOT needs to be coming to the table with some funds. So on the other hand, you know, both NDOT and RTC are a little crimped with what's going on nationally, cutting grant funds, the usual flow through that comes from the federal government to help build roads, I think is not coming to my understanding, or not coming in the way it used to. Maybe our RTC reps can speak to that. But anyway, design is underway on the McCarran, and I'm still pressing on both Plumas and Lakeside. So it's scheduled to come back to the council on April 23rd, I want to say, second meeting in April. What's that? Okay. So that's what I wanted to report on. Now there's more things happening, so many things, right? We had a presentation on ADUs, staff are, you know, we had a big turnout for that. People, staff are still figuring that out. There was a rule approval that I did not support that came to our last council meeting. It was to deal with sewer fees, sewage fees, connection fees. When you have a property that paid them and left, there's a new development coming in. What's the status? They used to expire in 5 years. Council just voted to have no expiration. And I did not support that because 1, they didn't brief us, and 2, how about give them an extra 5 if they need it, but not do it away with it entirely. So that was my proposal. We'll see if I can change any minds. I think it's worth having a conversation about. So are there any further questions? Yes, Dave.
Thank you for, Dave Tetzel for the record. Thank you for voting for a moratorium on the data centers. I think they shouldn't be treated as warehouses, and there should be this meeting, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, can you brief us on what's going on with the what they're doing at the Grand Sierra, and specifically,
Yes.
Are they using taxpayer money for that?
That
It
is-
a TIF, but I don't fully understand.
Right. I'll do my best in a few moments, but we can also get a presentation from the people in the know. So what the proposal is the Grand Sierra's come forward with about $1 billion of improvements. About 380 million of that would be a new arena that they would build on the Grand Sierra property. In order to figure all this out, because this isn't something we usually do, we hired a consultant called Hunden Associates. They do this kind of work. I asked them, I spent a fair amount of time with them before the meeting, but one of the things I asked them is how do they get paid? Okay, are they working for us? Are they working for the developer? What's going on? They're working for us. And he said he had recommended not moving forward with the last 2 projects he did, but they were different. And this gets to your question about the TIF. So TIF is tax increment district. Okay. or facility. Fee,
Funding.
funding, thank you, tax increment funding. And the way it works is that the theory is that when you build something, it's sort of along the theory of a rising tide lifts all boats. So if they build an arena, and let's say it makes $1. Okay, that's a big if, because most arenas do not make $1. But let's say they do make $1 over what the cost of the arena was. Then any money that goes into, that is spent in that area, so sales tax, other people coming along, building a restaurant, whatever it is, it basically builds up the property base in this this area, which is suddenly lost the word. What's that?
The district or?
In this district, but the full name, I don't know. It'll come to me in a minute. In this redevelopment district, essentially. We have 2 of these. One's called 1, one's called 2. GSRs and
Development.
yeah, it's a redevelopment district 2, RDA 2. So here's the thing, this thing's been going along, this redevelopment district, and there haven't been a lot of investment in that general area. It's along Kitski, it's along, there's maps of it, we can bring those, you can see where it is. But the theory is, rather than the city being on the hook to pay for something, they've said, if this district makes money, we would like to get that money. They'd like 100% of the money that would go in and help fund their development. And so what they've told us is that they've come up with 90% of the funding for the development, but they need a missing 10%. So I'm a questioning gal and somewhat, you know, I'm a critical thinker. And so I said, if you can raise 90% of the money, why can't you raise 100% of the money? That was my first question. And my questions go from there. So there's something called the but-for test. And what it means is, but for this development coming in, there wouldn't be this money coming in. And without this money, their project is not a go, which I continue to question. So the developer, the consultant came in, gave us a presentation, and it was implied in the staff memo that they met all the criteria. But one of the criteria is this but-for test. Do you absolutely need this money to make this project go? So it turns out that's the next step. They have to do this but-for test. They have to analyze all the financials in great depth, some of it proprietary. And they have to tell us whether really the only way this goes is if we participate. Now, we would not be giving them city funds that exist today or taxes that you pay. We would only, there's a base established in these redevelopment districts. That's how much tax is being collected today. Actually, when it went into effect. It only has 10 years left on its existence. So anything over and above that is what's at play. So my proposal was that we split it 50-50. If you get $1, we get $1. And they kind of frowned, but they didn't say no. And I said, oh, you don't like that? You get $2, we get $1. But what I want to do is be able to reinvest in our streets, our fire station, which is in a tent, and other needs that the city has, especially in down times, right? But I also proposed something else that was a little bit controversial. I have subsequently found out. I wondered, why is this arena being set up, with all due respect to the men, for just men's basketball? Why are the women supposed to stay back at the Lawler Event Center, which was built in '83? If they don't think it's good enough for the men, well, maybe it's not good enough for the women either. And maybe the women should go play at this arena as well. And then they got the provost up and he said a thing which wasn't yes or no or which way. But then this weekend, New York Times came out with an article about how phenomenally women's basketball is doing and how much interest there is in it. And how there was a greater attendance in the multi-millions of watchers of the playoffs. Many more than the men's playoffs. Okay, they have some superstars and people are interested in following those. And I don't know if we have superstars in Reno. And I don't know much about our production, but I would venture to say that you get an opportunity to play in a new facility with new concessions and new locker rooms and the whole 9 yards. Maybe our team would step up, just like the men would probably step up too. So I've made an argument that this is a city of equity. We have a majority female council. We have a majority female legislature. Women's sports have been left behind for many years. If the city's going to lean in and help this, then I would like to see some equity and parity among these sports teams. Because remember that I said, if it makes $1. They stipulated already that is pretty sure the arena itself won't make money. This is in the public record at that meeting. But everything around it will potentially be lifted. And so the arena may not pay off. And I said, well, if we're building an arena for men's basketball and we already decided it's not paying off, do the women suddenly have to make it pay off? I mean, no. So anyway, that's in play, and you'll hear some more about that. But we are a very skeptical group at the council because we haven't done one of these projects. And we want to make sure that we protect our taxpayers, that it really is a benefit for the city. And here's really the question. Are we giving the money and how much? 2 grants here? What about another project coming in? Where do they sit in the money world? And how do we divide? If they're bringing money and they're lifting boats, maybe they should get a piece of the action too. And so those are the kind of questions we have to ask, and also finally, something that's called community benefits. So what's in it for the community at large? So we really need to, they're going to have to do quite a bit of work to show us what's in it for the city as a whole before we give them what they want or even part of what they want. Does that explain it?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. It's not us giving them bond funds, tax dollars. These tax dollars don't exist today, and they will only exist if their project create them. Okay, yes.
It's my understanding that this tax increment financing, it's not exactly like the city giving them money, but they don't have to pay their taxes for 20 years or something because they're raising everybody else's tax around them.
They get, the different way of saying it is that they get to reinvest the taxes that are collected. They do have to pay, but the taxes that are collected, they're saying, can we get those back to help us fund the project?
Right, but it's tax.
It's not that they don't pay, they do pay.
They don't, it doesn't come to the city.
Potentially would not come to the city, although the school district would get their money, other groups would get their money. It's just the city wouldn't get their money. Okay, there was another question. Yeah.
Kristen Montan, thank you for the equity, inclusion of the women's sports. I am a humongous basketball fan, especially women's.
Oh, you are?
Humongous. Even our, season ticket holder for years, and I think women are left behind in a lot of this, and I'm also a WNBA and Unrivaled fan, and the support behind that is huge. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, I've got charts and numbers to prove it.
Yeah.
And so we'll see where this goes. Any other questions? Yeah. Audrey.
I don't know if this is the right time to talk about the budgetary issue regarding apps.
Sure. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So, great question. So the city's undergoing some crunch. They're 25 million short for next year's budget. They're short this year's budget. They've asked people to cut back 5% and so on and so forth. So they figured out all the way up to how to meet 21 million of the 25 million shortfall. So they then brought it to council and said, okay, we still need to find $4 million. How do we do that? And so they recommended looking at all of the boards and commissions that the city sponsors. So that includes things like Senior Advisory Committee, Arts and Culture Committee, Urban Forestry Committee, the 2% room tax, the CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant. All of these boards, there's probably 16 of them. They all are publicly noticed, publicly held meetings like this one. They all have to have a process, a minute taker, all this stuff. And so the question is, could they defer some of them? One of the proposals was to make the NAB quarterly. Okay. And I did not agree. I said, no, we have to review projects and get the public's input into these projects that are coming. You see our business, they're coming quite rapidly. If we don't meet for a few months, then projects will come that don't get the NAB's input. And I don't think we would end up with best results. They also frankly just recommended, I have to give a shout out here to Jennifer, because we have 3 liaison positions. But one of these people got promoted, so their position's vacant. Another one of these people got called up by National Guard, and which you have to hold their job open, pay their benefits, and while they're gone for a year and a half. So all of this work is falling to Jennifer. All of it, six elected officials, 6 NABs. So you understand the problem. And they had recommended to me that we not fill these other jobs. And I said, that is too much. We cannot put all this work on Jennifer. We've had it before where we had 2 liaisons, each had 3 elected officials, 3 NABs. That's doable. 6 is not doable. I mean, you're doing it right now for a month or 2 with helping. But so I said I was completely not in favor of that. Now I am interested. I mean, maybe I'm biased. Maybe people here might have a different opinion. I would like to hear your opinion. Anybody? Is the NABs a place to save money?
Donna Keats? Question? Of course not. They already got rid of the NABs once. Don't go very well. Had total lack of citizen input across the board. Then when they reinstituted the NABs, which was not all that long ago, it's taken quite a long time to get people to come.
The
and
momentum.
Speak about things, yeah. So we would sit here, there'd be enough of the board here to have a quorum, and we would just go ABC done. And now we're getting a lot of public input. People care about things, people want to learn about things, and I think touching this, and Jennifer's doing an amazing job, and she needs help. And I think anything that the council chooses to do that involves diminishing the amount of public input, well, we'll
Yeah.
just have to nail them at the next election.
So you're gonna have to, thank you, you're gonna just have to pay attention. I mean, it starts with the manager. And it was the manager who said, don't fill the positions, reduce the amount of NABs. I asked her, have you ever been to a NAB meeting? You know, et cetera. And so she has decided to fill one of these 2 vacant positions. So that's a win. And right now, she's decided not to reduce the frequency of the NAB meetings for right now. But stay tuned, the final budget, we're gonna get a presentation in April, I think, and then finally in May. So it's something to, if you care about this process, to pay attention to. Yes.
Record, 2 things. I wanted to thank you for your stance on the sewer connection fee policy. I think that not only the way the process came down on that, you and Megan were really brave, and I appreciate your vote on that. The second thing, I have a question about this live entertainment district policy that's coming up and the C-scale noise limit. It sounds like that's gonna be citywide. Noise until 11 PM of up to 80 decibels of the exterior property line. There's a meeting about that next week, the 25th at 3 o'clock. Am I interpreting that correctly, that this is gonna be an amendment to the noise ordinance?
So there's 2 things. One, well, there's a project, Jacobs Entertainment, that has something pending. I don't know all the details on that, not in our ward. But number 2, there's been a proposal to establish an entertainment district, as you're speaking, but they had a town hall about it, I'll call it. It wasn't like a publicly noticed meeting. I don't believe they've been kept minutes. The mayor held it at City Hall. I was not able to attend, and it wasn't recorded, so I don't know what happened there. So anyway, all I know is about what you know, is that these things are pending and being discussed.
I was reading it that the noise was gonna apply citywide, 80 decibels at the exterior property line until 11 PM is really loud.
Yeah, today our noise ordinance is 60 decibels. And it's at 10 PM, you have to turn off amplified music, amplified sound.
So everybody hears about noise. That meeting?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do care about noise, both noise from vehicles, noise from motorcycles, noise from things like street racing, and then noise from things that are in place, like a wedding, an event, etc. So I do think even though we're not in downtown, we're close, just across the river. And, you know, I think it's something everybody should care about. I'm glad you brought it up. What's that?
March 25th, 3 PM, City Council chambers.
March 25th for the people on Zoom, 3 PM.
Mhm.
March 25th, 3 PM,
City Council.
City Hall. There was something else about the NABs I wanted to, oh, this has already taken effect. So there are no planning staff here anymore. So the planning staff used to be here for Q&A. And they decided that they could cut overtime and that kind of thing, and we'll just talk directly to the developers. So that's a change that's already been put in place, like, we don't have planning staff here today. I don't know how long that'll last. I didn't support that either, but I'm not really, I could say a lot about the NAB, but who attends, and they did say that the planning staff are gonna listen to the recording and gather information. A lot of the information is for them. The problem is that they've been having them on a rotating schedule, and often the planning person, let's say for Ranchera, was not here, it'd be another planning person, and it almost always happened. If it was Lake Ridge, well, a different planning person was here, not for Lake Ridge, and so forth. And in fact, they said, I encourage them to come to the Jiffy Lube meeting. Don't know if they'll come or watch on video. Okay, so. All right, I'm gonna step away. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Brewer. The next item is A6, staff liaison report. Jennifer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jennifer Alvarez, Council Relations Liaison for the record. I do have a short presentation. I'll be sharing my screen here in just 1 second. Bless you. So there will be a draft fee schedule that is available for review at reno.gov/meetings. If you take a look at the financial advisory board meeting that occurred on March 13th. And then after your review, you can submit public comment to one of our staff. Her name is Christy Smith. So she'll be reviewing that. There are some changes to the NAB members. You did get an email from me at around 6 p.m. that gives you the entire proposed fee schedule. It's 39 pages, so I couldn't include it in our presentation, but there is a copy for the public at the table back there if you want to take a peek. Oh, and in your package too, you'll see the memo that went out to staff, and that one highlights the biggest changes too. I also want to remind you that we do have a program called Community Champions, and this is where we recognize someone within your ward, and you get to nominate someone, and we give them a little prize as a thank you for serving the community. So I do encourage anyone to submit any person that you'd like to get recognized. I do also encourage you to sign up for your ward newsletter. As Councilmember Brewer informed you guys, we have several boards and commissions, and you can sign up for all the different newsletters. That way you know what's going on within the city. To our newest NAB members, I do encourage you to sign up if you haven't already. So that would be great.
To sign up, all you do is you go onto reno.gov. You type in newsletter. Right at the front, it says fill in your name. You don't do that yet. Go down a little bit and it lists about 20-25 newsletters that you can get on to file a particular issue or each of the NABs. I get all the NABs. Want to know what they're all saying.
And as Councilmember Brewer had previously informed you about Reno Direct, it's a non-emergency service center. And there are, we do have 3 staff members that are there present from Monday through Friday. Their hours are 9 to 4. So if you do call in at that phone number, 334-4636, you'll get a live person that can respond. And if you want to submit an issue after hours or on the weekends, you can also do that online at reno.gov/Reno Direct. And that is the best way to get anything in, because then you get a service request number. We're informed, the council member is informed, and we're able to keep track of what's going on. So upcoming meetings, we have our next city council meeting on the 26th at 10 a.m. at City Hall. Planning Commission, there is one meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. and then a following meeting on April 2nd. And the next Ward 2 NAB is on April 15th, and as Councilmember Dewar said, location is to be determined. So once we have that location, you will be notified on the newsletter. And once the agenda is posted on reno.gov/meetings, you'll be able to see it there as well. And that is all I have.
I have one thing that I'm gonna have to call personal opinion. So I support most of the fee changes. So if you are a user of our, let's say, our recreation facilities, you might want to check it out and see what changes are being made to cost to use the pool, the cost to use courts, the cost to use a building and all that. That's usually sort of something people tend to hone in on. There's a fee increase proposed that I do not support, so I might as well tell you I support most of the others, but I don't support one. And I also made my opinion known on that. And that is the fee to file an appeal. Okay. So today, a year ago, the fee was $50. And our staff proposed then increasing it to, I don't remember, $600, $1,000, something in there. What's that? They said it costs about $6,000 for them to process these appeals and deal with them and so on and so forth. They have to have the night meetings, staff have to be there, they have to do extra work. I held off that increase last year and I said, how about we go to $100 last year? And so we did. It's actually cost $103 to file an appeal. And this is anything that the staff does or council does, planning commission does. Well, in this fee structure, they again propose to increase that fee to, I think it was $500 or $600, something in there. And I calculated, I think it was 600. I calculated the extra 500 to get about 10 appeals a year. That's about $5,000. So it's de minimis to the city, but out of an individual's pocket, I think it's bigger, especially if you are less wealthy, but you're still concerned about something. The way I feel about it is you should be able to access your government at not a high cost. And you should be able to get redress from your council. You should have your thoughts heard. You get to speak for 10 minutes instead of 3. You get to put up all kind of exhibits. You get to be part of the Q&A process if you're concerned about something. And multiple people could file an appeal on the same thing, which we've had. Up until a point, we'd had maybe 3, but then on Lake Ridge one year, we had 19 people file an appeal. So, you know, that was very challenging just to make their presentations was hours, right? So anyway, I put in an objection because I just don't think, just like I think voting should be accessible to people, I think accessing your government should be, you know, if you want redress. This isn't to go play a game or go to a pool or do anything else. This is to have your voice heard with the concern about some action. So Megan again supported me on that one. I don't know where that's going. I didn't feel that there was a lot of empathy to that point of view. So that's where it is. I just consider it a commercial. Yes.
Donna Keats for the record. Okay, so I agree with you. I thank you for that because
Yeah.
yes, that's right. I agree with you and thank you for that. And it's $50. Last time they wanted to not have a public opinion. They're talking about who has standing.
Right.
That law was so that none of us would have standing, even though we use downtown. So that would keep us out of the game. So, but for $50, we could still appeal it and then be told we don't have standing, but now it's $500. I'm unlikely to appeal anything ever, $500. Unless it's, you know, right next door, but things that. Anyway, I'm wondering about, there are a lot of things on this list that deal with unfunded mandates, NRS, recoup our costs for noticing. For example, there's just by 3 of them on here, noticing requirements for administrative things, whatever. So they're $250, $500, $700 and $50 that currently don't have a fee on them.
Oh,
Okay, and what I was told, like on the Arlington thing that was here last meeting, evidently they had to pay, and there's an independent requirement. I forget, you referenced it earlier, about a requirement that the developer hold a meeting that has nothing to do with the city, so they pay for noticing.
Yes,
packets, right? So when we're talking about these other development service fees, we're noticing that didn't have requirements or didn't have fees, and now they have 200, 500, or $750. Who's paying those fees?
the developer.
Developer fees? Okay, thank you. I was just curious about that. Appreciate it.
Is that already in effect or when?
No, this is part of the proposed budget that will go into effect in July 1. So there'll be public hearings about that. You can write in, I mean, that's why Jennifer is explaining it, so you know it's coming. And if you have an opinion on any of these fees, you can, make your thoughts.
Sean McCoy, for the record, is the appeal fee a flat fee regardless of the type of project?
Yeah.
So in other words, if you had a project didn't go through the NAV or the planning commission, it was one of the simple ones, and you don't have the opportunity to provide feedback, fees still.
Yeah, it would be. Today it's $103.
Yes.
Audrey Keller for the record, as a member of the NAB, I appealed a Ranchera development last year. And it was worth $103 to do so. It was a lot of work on the appellant's part, the person that's filing the appeal. It's it's a lot of intensive work. And for 10 minutes, you gotta work really hard to get your message across to council. But it's worth it. Now, when it goes to $500, my suggestion to council member and city manager was to say, look at, if the person or entity that is applying for a permit or a PUD amendment doesn't do a good enough job in your community and doesn't listen to you, they should have to pay a fee up front. They should have to pay $5,000, whatever the number is, and it goes into a holding fee. If they do a great job and nobody appeals, they should get it back. You know, because why should we, as the public that says, hey, you didn't solve our problem in the first place, you didn't answer our questions, why are we being penalized? Make the developer pay a fee if they don't do a good job listening to the public. That's my opinion.
It's a great idea.
So if you care about this issue, please write in. Don't feel like you have to write in, or show up at the meeting where the fees are gonna be discussed. You know when that is?
I do not,
Okay,
but I can find out.
okay.
All right, is that it then? Moving on to business items. We don't, right, you guys don't have anything else to add? Okay, well, now we're gonna move on to our business items. We have, starting out, lost my track here, Reno Fire Department. Giving an update. Reno Fire Department here.
I do not see them here, so we'll move on to the next item.
Okay, now we'll try development projects. Oh no, we've got City of Reno's 2025 community survey. Sorry.
No,
I
it's
almost
okay.
knocked you off. I lost my place. Thank you.
And I have a few flyers, if anybody wants to kind of like scan the QR code or see them or pass them around. See that your packets include the slides, so that's very exciting. You know?
Where did I find this? Did you say they're in here?
Yes,
Okay, then.
right there. And that's, but we can always print that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how many people are here. Hi, everybody. I'm Carissa Bradley. I am the Strategic Initiatives Manager in the Office of Policy and Strategy with the City of Reno. And today I'm here to discuss a really exciting initiative we have coming up, which is called the 2025 Community Survey. It's open now, but I wanted to come and present to the Neighborhood Advisory Board. One, because we really want to get the message out, and we're wanting for everybody to take the survey, but help amplify the message as well. So I wanted to make sure everybody here kind of understands what we're trying to achieve. So on my first slide here, I'm excited. I don't know, sorry. So the community survey at the city, we do a lot of different types of surveys. Typically, they're more topical based, right? You might have a survey about an ADU, or how do you feel about a certain development project, or provide your input on the public art master plan. But the city hasn't done a comprehensive survey just around the community's thoughts on Reno as a whole, right? How do you feel about Reno as a place to live, as a place to raise a family? What are your perceptions of Reno? And then also, what are your feelings towards our government services? How do you feel like the condition of the pavement in your neighborhood is? How do you feel like the access to government is in for you? Do you know what Reno Direct is? Those sorts of questions. So we haven't done that since 2017, and we're wanting to reintroduce that as a concept this year, which is where we came with the 2025 community survey. This is first and foremost an opportunity for all community members to share their perspectives, and it's really a tool to better understand community needs and priorities. As you all know, you're part of one of the opportunities that we provide for the community to provide input, but the survey will help us kind of maybe reach a broader audience who might not come to a neighborhood advisory board or might have other things they wanted to share. Next slide, if you can, please. So by your input matters, we are hoping to use the information that we gather through the community survey to help inform our next strategic plan. So our current strategic plan is sunsetting at the end of this fiscal year. So June 30th is when it ceremonially expires. We're not going to go to strategic plan jail or anything if it lapses, but we want to have the community have a little bit more input onto what strategic foundation we have for the next few years and what we prioritize as city leaders. So that is why your input is going to help matter, or why it matters. And then what we're trying to learn, next slide, is first and foremost, how you feel about Reno as a community, how residents perceive our government services broadly. We're not asking about specific departments against one another or anything like that, but just broadly, how are the services that we provide as the city of Reno? And then what priorities matter most to you as residents? We all have different feelings on what the city should be prioritizing, but Councilwoman Dewar knows that it's really hard to level all of those different needs and priorities, and how do you make it into a cohesive plan moving forward? So we wanted to ask what everybody wants to prioritize. Next slide, please. So our goals here are, we're looking to hit about 1,500 responses. We are also, it's open as of now through April 30th, and we're hoping to share the results with the community in the late summer. 1,500 gives us about a statistically representative sample of our community size, but we want to crush that goal. So that's also why we're coming to neighborhood advisory boards. We have developed a digital toolkit to help everybody, some pre-generated text to put on their own social media and stuff like that. And we're also working with different community-based organizations. So you know, the city works with a ton of different stakeholders. We have a pretty good reach, but you know, we want to move, or we want to work with, let's say, the Boys and Girls Club, because they are able to hit maybe a different demographic than we might at the city. So those are some of the goals that we have for this. Next slide, please. So how to participate. This is the QR code if you want to scan it now. It's also in your slide decks here. The community survey is on reno.gov/community survey. It's about 10 to 15 minutes. It's available in 4 different languages: English, Spanish, Tagalog, and Chinese. And all responses are completely anonymous. You'll get to a section that has demographic questions. Those are just for us to be able to understand maybe some trends that exist in the community, but they are not required to be answered if you don't feel comfortable. And next slide, please. And how can you help? So first and foremost, take the survey. Like I said, it takes about 10-15 minutes, depending on how much feedback you want to give us. It could take a little longer. Engage others to take the survey. Share with your community and follow us on social media. If you go to the website where the community survey is held, we have a digital toolkit posted there. That's different graphics and social media text that you could use, and just kind of general things, what hashtags you use if you're going to post about it yourself. But first and foremost, we just want to get as many responses as possible. So please help us if you are willing. And last slide is just the QR code again. Open to any questions if you have them.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Nice presentation. We appreciate it. Are there any questions?
Kristen Montag for the record. I saw on your slide back that we talked about the stuff you have, to engage people. You have like printed, like posters.
We do.
Okay, so I'll talk to you, that would be like,
Okay, yeah, we'd love that. We dropped off flyers across town, but we were like, we can't drop them off
Yeah.
everywhere, so please,
Here, I'll
if
give
you
you
have a
information.
facility, yeah.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Great, thank you.
So I'm gonna encourage all of you are, very interested residents.
Mhm.
And behind you are people that you know. You all have, I would say actually a following. You know people through your work, through your social activities, through your nonprofit activities. And I'm gonna just challenge you to A, take the survey. And B, reach out to groups that you're part of, whether it's your condo association, your apartment complex, your sports club, whatever it is. Let's see if we can exceed that 1,500. When the city did Reimagine Reno, we updated our master plan, we got 7,000 responses.
Mhm.
And that is very powerful because that is very meaningful. It really gives the city direction.
Yeah.
The fewer we get, 600 is generally considered a standard sample size for a town our size. So if you get 600 responses, but getting 1,500, I think would be great. And I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are they multiple choice? Is it open-ended? How is it set up?
That's a great question. Carissa Bradley for the record. There's a range. So we have the first 10 or so questions are, how would you rate Reno as a place to live? And it's very good, neutral, poor, very poor, those type of things. There's a ranging section. And then there's also, here's a list of things, pick your top 3. What do you want the city to prioritize? Here's your top 3. We also have an open response to that portion, but we included about 10 or so options of things that we tend to hear that people want us to prioritize, but there is open response. And then the rest are either, select or single selection.
But is there at the end someplace they could add some more context or open-ended?
Yes, it is in the middle, but it is that open response that is what anything else you want to share with us.
Gotcha. I think, that's very useful.
Any questions from us?
Yes.
Please do. I was, Molly New-
And can you come up just so we can hear you on the Zoom too?
Molly New, record. My question to you is, and this has a little bit to do with the AU survey that was circulated or wasn't circulated in my view, because nobody that I know knew about it. And it ended up a little bit short of 1,500 replies, and I know the city viewed that as a victory, but it was a kind of a really worded survey, and there were mixed topics. The question kind of resulted almost in like a push-pull result. I don't think yours is necessarily the same, but have you considered reaching out directly to the people who already engage with the city? Since you have their emails, you know who they are, those people being communicated directly.
We will be sending, or it is going on all of the newsletters. So if people are subscribed to all of the, regular communication channels, so you're signed up for the Word 2 map, you'll get the survey link that way as well. So I think that the city maintains about 30 different newsletters, as we were talking about earlier. So it'll get pushed out on all of those. Plus our social media, which I know is not like the end all be all. Check, you did the box. But one thing I'm really excited about, and it's something we're trying out as an engagement method, is that community partners network piece that I kind of talked a little bit about, but we're asking nonprofits and other community-based organizations or businesses who are interested in helping us spread the word to kind of take the pledge, if you will, to helping us out. So that would look like, let's say ITS Logistics is like, oh, I know that I have a whole group of individuals in this age range. I can help you get people in the 25 to 35 demographic. So we're partnering with community partners that way. As for the methodology on the survey questions, I can tell you, we spent a lot of time working to make sure that questions were avoiding what you just described, where there you kind of too many questions in one. We worked with so I mentioned that the city did this survey in 2015 and in 2017. We recycled some of those questions, so we'll be able to sort of baseline data as well. So we knew those questions were already vetted because they were helped out with the a third-party vendor that specializes in surveys. The rest of the questions that were, staff-driven, or like we kind of came up with, we spent a lot of iterations of making sure, kind of test running them to make sure that they're okay. Our goal is that if we do this right, we can do it every 1 to 2 years, and we'll iron out some of the kinks too. Kind of like a census almost.
So back to just my specific question is people who have reached out directly via email to the city. And I'm not talking about people who signed up for the newsletter, but people who've expressed a concern regarding any topic.
Mhm.
Are you able to access that email database and get back to them regarding the survey?
So my understanding is that the city does not have a client relationship management system like that, like a CRM. I think the closest that we get is with ServiceNow at times, if we can collect the emails, but I think there's some functionality there. In a perfect world, and this is like, if somebody has the solution to this, I would love it. Anytime you interact with your government, there should be like some knowledge that's coming back, and it does live in like a CRM like that. I don't believe that we have that currently.
But I mean, maybe as an experiment, for example, people that have submitted Reno Direct requests in the last 1 year.
Mhm.
You have their emails, they all sent them in on email. Also, I think another thing she's getting at, maybe you already participated in the ADU survey that came in on email.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you can gather those.
I will look into it. I think our communications director had told me there's some. I am not an attorney either, but there's some legal thing about when we collect emails from Reno Direct. I'm getting a head nod. I'm like, I think there's a legal component that I'm maybe glossing over, but I will look into it, and I think it's a great idea. And I agree that if you come to a public comment or you say something on public record to your government, it should be all easily managed. We are in 2025 and not 1905.
How does it relate to the master plan? Like, what's the difference between the strategic plan and the master plan?
That's a good question.
Can
So
you state your name, please?
Catherine Schmidt, thank you. So the master plan is the planning horizon is about a 20-year planning horizon. And that primarily drives zoning code decisions, development decisions, those sorts of things. And it helps council kind of make odds at, making the final call on some things. The strategic plan is a shorter planning horizon, usually 3 to 5 years. And it takes the master plan as part of its input, plus the sustainability and climate action plan, plus the downtown action plan, plus you name it, we've funded a lot of plans, right? The strategic plan in theory should be, okay, from all of these things, all of these inputs, what are we focusing on for the next 3 to 5 years?
It's really about our priorities. It's a priority setting tool for the budget and for special projects. Versus a decision tool to make a decision on a development.
Any other questions? I have one. The 1,500 number, that's less than 0.2% of the population. And some of the survey responses that I've seen taken to council with, we did the survey, we got so many, and I look at it and I do statistics. The numbers are not actually statistically significant from a mathematical point of view. Still not enough respondents.
I don't know.
Size of the base.
I mean, often a survey of a town our size, 600 responses is considered representative
By who? I mean,
by the people that conduct surveys. So I happen to be chair of Tomwa.
Yeah.
The water company where we get our water. And they have traditionally, the whole 11 years I've been on, I've done a survey every single year. That is designed by a survey specialist, costs a lot of money to do it, 25,000 or more just to design it. And then they process the results. They consider 600 statistically significant. And it's been many, many survey tools. That's the number. Now, maybe in today's world, it might be 700. Might have grown a little in our growth period, but it's not 1,500. That's considered large.
Yeah.
So I'm just sharing.
Yeah, to your point, I also, when I first started and I was like, we should do a community survey, I went out and I talked to a few vendors and it just kind of got like back of the envelope numbers, and to Councilwoman Dewar's point, you know, we're being quoted like $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 to do a community survey, and I'm like, whoa, I can do a community survey. But they were quoting us 500, 600, and we were like, ooh, we need to up that. And so our goal is 1,500. I would love to see 10,000. I'd love to see, you know, way more engagement. I will say also in the analysis section, we have these separate like demographic bands, and those ones have a little bit different. We have to have at least 300 responses from certain demographic bands in order to do subgroup analysis. So I'm also happy to nerd out with you on
Okay, good.
statistics.
My point was just being, I realized that the number of people who come to a meeting, like in our neighborhood, we got 20 people come to the elementary school out of 200 homeowners. City thought we were a big win. Still, that's still a lot more than 0.2%. So that's kind of what I was used to. So I guess to me, it's like this 1,500 is it's not a representative sample. It's really good for a city our size, how many respondents you get, which is a totally different thing than a mathematically significant number of people. And I think we get distracted by that, thinking, oh, we've done this great survey. Well, really, you know, I take it, if you hope to parse out what groups you're actually talking about, see if you have a demographically fair representation.
And we matched those up with the census from 2020.
Yes.
For the 2022, yes, I should say.
Thank you. I do appreciate your patience with, well, we can nerd out another.
Yeah, we
day,
can nerd out.
because- Do that.
I'm with you guys.
Yeah.
Is there any other comments, questions, or can we? Okay, well, we'll move on to the
Thank you
next
so
item.
much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you have a
I
party.
do, I do.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And I'll
Okay,
contact you.
so
Something.
I would love that.
now the next item on the agenda is, we're moving on, it's the business item B3, Regional Transportation Commission. Did they leave? Do we have that? Let's see. There you are. Thank you so much. You did. I didn't see anybody getting up. I thought maybe you were coming in on water there. Thank you.
I was pretending to be a good student.
Oh, right behind you. Good to see you. Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
All right, thanks for having me back. I'm Paul Nelson. I'm the Government Affairs Officer at RTC. I was here about a year ago and we had a lot of things on the docket. We got some updates to that. Obviously, this board has changed quite a bit since last year too, with the addition of the sixth board. So some of the projects I talked about last year aren't included in this one, but we've got a lot of good things to update you on, a lot of good things come down the road. Next slide. So our RTC Board of Commissioners are made up of 5 electeds from the region, 2 from the Washoe County Commission, 2 from the City Council of Reno, and then the Mayor of Sparks. Alexis Hill is our chair, Devin Reese is our vice chair. Tracy Larkin Thomason is the director of NDOT. She sits on the board as an ex officio, and Bill Thomas is our executive director. So our mission is building a better community through quality transportation. We do that in 3 major ways. Our 3 core actions are metropolitan transportation planning. So we do the long-term and the short-term planning of the region. We do the engineering and construction of the regional road. So the bigger roads that you guys see throughout the cities of Reno and Sparks and Washoe County. And then we operate the public transit system. So with our public transportation, our fixed route transit is known as RTC Ride, and those are the big buses you see all over town. We've had quite a bit of success lately. So it's the backbone of our transit system. In the last 12 months, we've provided more than 5.6 million rides. And 60% of those are work trips. So we know how valuable this service is for the economy, for people to get to and from work, make a paycheck, make a living. We've had 31 straight months of ridership growth. That's really important to us. We always want to see our ridership grow, especially after COVID. We had a big drop after COVID with our ridership. We're getting those levels back up. Just in the last 12 months, we've seen a 10% increase. So that's about 500,000 more rides that we had a year ago. And our fleet is 100% sustainable. So about a third of them are all electric. The other 2/3 are diesel electric hybrids. And then we've got our hydrogen fuel cells that will be coming online shortly. We've got 2 of them already. 6 of them are going to be delivered in the next few months. And we're working on our permanent fueling facility to get those up and running. So bus rapid transit, you guys have seen the big bus shelters on Virginia Street and on 4th Street and Crater Way. This is very successful for us. It's our 2 busiest lines by far. We've got 20 lines This makes up about 25% of our rides. So Virginia Line, you can see almost 1 million rides in the last 12 months. Lincoln Line, 450,000 plus rides. 1.43 million rides combined on just those two routes. So those go up from Virginia Line goes from Meadowood Mall up to the 4th Street or up to Lawler Event Center. And then the Lincoln Line goes from the 4th Street station down to Centennial Plaza in Sparks. Nice thing about this is the frequency. It's about 10 minutes between buses. So if you miss the bus, there's another one on the way in 10 minutes. Another good program we have is our microtransit. We call it Flex Ride, and it's our version of Uber and Lyft. This is divided up into 4 different zones where we just don't have the demand for a fixed route bus. So we've got these smaller cutaways. So we've got them operating in Spanish Springs and Sparks, North Valleys, Somerset and Verdine, and South Meadows. We just started the South Meadows one last May, so we're still finding out how successful that one is. But this has been pretty good for us. So these are those 4 zones I was talking about. The way it works is if you're in one of those zones, you can call you can call the Flex Ride. They'll pick you up and they'll take you from point A to point B if you're within that zone. There's also some points of interest outside of the zone they'll take you to. If you want to get out farther, they'll take you to a bus stop that'll take you into, say, downtown Reno or Meadowood Mall or someplace like that. It's costs the same as a bus fare, so $2.50, $3 for 8 minutes. Couple of good programs we have are the Senior Ride Taxi Bucks program. This is a card that if you're 60 years old or older, a veteran or a person with a disability, you'll get a card, and every month it'll load 60 bucks on it for you. You can use it for a taxi, you can use it for Uber or a Lyft. My parents actually signed up for this because they use it to go to the airport. So this is really good. You can use it for taxis, you can use it for Uber or Lyft. That pool is another good one because we've got people that travel such long distances in our area to go to work. We've got the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Lake Tahoe, Carson City, Susanville, the Army Depot up in Furlong. So there's a lot of distance that people go. So it's a program where you can get 5 to 15 people together. Enterprise provides a vehicle and you carpool. We provide a subsidy and the employer can also provide a subsidy. So it makes it very affordable for people to travel. We've got a fleet of about 340 vans and we're right around number 6 in the country right now, which is pretty remarkable because of the size of our population. So it's a very successful program. You can see just last year, we saved more than 20 million miles traveled in our region. So a lot less traffic congestion, a lot less air pollution.
Where do you sign up for those? Online or do you have to go to?
I think you go to, is it the 4th Street station or the Centennial Plaza? You can go there and sign up.
I did it recently.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I went online and you, for the, talk about the senior thing, just go online and there's a printout application. You drop it off at 4th Street with your ID. I got mine within like 2 days.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And that program, I'll mention too, that if you don't use it, it goes away, but you do get $60 more on it.
It doesn't care.
So I didn't understand the $60. Can you go back to that slide? What do you mean it's $60 per month subsidy? What does that mean?
So you have a card, think of it like kind of like a gift card you can buy somewhere. You just get this card, it automatically goes 60 bucks on it. You can use that until it's gone on a taxi or Uber or Lyft.
And it's a reduced rate or the same rate as the Uber is?
It works like a credit card. When you take the cab, you just slide it but you have to tip in cash.
Yeah.
Other
But
than
what
that,
I'm
it's a
saying
credit card.
is there any advantage to it? Is it cheaper taxi, cheaper Uber? What's the advantage?
No,
of doing
it's,
it this way?
you pay the same price you would otherwise. It's just that you've got 60 bucks. that you're option.
$63.
$60 free.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you do it each month?
Yeah.
For the $63?
It just, each month it's dollars is loaded on.
Your Lyft or Uber account automatically.
Gotcha.
Thank you. We've lost the place. We're about the van pool. And
Yep, no, that cool. So next steps with public transit. We're trying to go more towards a cashless pay system because fewer and fewer people are using cash, carrying cash nowadays. So along with kiosks in the bus stations where you can purchase your bus pass, you can also go on our app or the transit app, you can purchase your bus pass on that. You can also eventually, these little gadgets we're putting on our buses, it's a tap and pay system. So you can use your bus card or your debit or credit card. You get on a bus, you just tap it and you pay right there. Makes it a lot easier, a lot more convenient for people. We're also going to upgrade our software for the Flex Ride Access buses. So Those Flex Ride cutaway buses that I showed you earlier, those are the exact same models that we have on our Access buses. The Access is our paratransit. So if somebody goes out to, say, Spanish Springs, in an Access bus, they get dropped off. And that bus doesn't have anyone to pick up, but there's a Flex Ride call that happens out there. We can then use that Access bus as a Flex Ride. So it's just a better, more efficient way to use more vehicles and get more bang for our buck on that. Planning, so Regional Transportation Plan, just a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago now, our board approved our 2050 RTP update. So this is our long-term plan. So we're looking 25 years down the road, what we want our transportation network to look like down the road. So every project that you see happening today is in this document. This is our long-term plan. Once we get down to a 5-year plan, we've got what we call the RTIP. And that's where we're getting really close to where, all right, we're honing in on these projects, we're gonna put these neighborhoods. And then at 2 years, we've got our interlocal agreements that we make with the city and the county to really get the show on the road. So this took us about 1.5 years to put together. It takes a look at all kinds of things, congestion, transit, safety, air pollution. We consider a lot of different things when we put this together. We have to do this every 4 years, federal requirement. Next. One of the things that came out of our active transportation plan was what we call our neighborhood network plan. So we divided our region up into 12 different neighborhoods, and we're going through each neighborhood and we're getting the community's input on how we can improve their pedestrian and bicycle access, really for safety, comfort, all that stuff. So we've got this map put together, and then there was a scoring system that ranked which order we're gonna start doing the plans in. And the first one was number 9 right there in the middle, which is in this ward. It goes from about Truckee River down to South Karen Boulevard, and from about Washoe Golf Course over to the airport. So we had a public meeting and a few pop-up meetings where we talked to people in those neighborhoods and found out where can we do some upgrades? Where can we improve sidewalks or crosswalks, traffic signals, bike paths, things like that, just to make things a lot easier for people that want to ride their bikes to the grocery store, kids that want to ride their bikes to the park. So we wrapped that one up a couple months ago, and then we started on Sparks. Next one, we're going up to number 2, which is Sun Valley, and then so on and so on. So engineering, hope you guys are ready for a bunch of orange cones because we're getting about that time of the year now. In fiscal year 24, we invested $81 million into our road projects. And that came out to about 2,600 direct jobs for people that are working in the construction industry. So some of the projects we have coming up. This one we've been talking about for a long time, and it's finally happening this year. So May 5th, we're planning on breaking ground on the Arlington bridges. It's the north and the south bridges. You can see they're pretty old. One of them is more than 100 years old, 1921. The other one's built in 1939. Construction will start May 5th. $30 million project. We were able to get this project down to a 1-year time frame. Originally, it was supposed to be 2 years. Greenfield Park, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, Greenfield Park's been closed for 2 years. So we're hoping to get this done in 1 year and get this back open again. So one of the things on the next slide is the design that we went out to the community. We found out what they want to see with these bridges. And we took that input when we put this together. So you can see the north bridge there. It's got tall thin pylons, custom column lights at the overlooks, all metal railing, a single pier. Right now it's a 2-pier bridge. It's gonna be a 1-pier bridge. And we're also going to keep that path that goes underneath that bridge between the parks going across the street right there. So after that project is done, we're going to move on to Sierra Street Bridge replacement. This one, 1937 is when it was built. This one's also structurally deficient. So as soon as Arlington is done, we'll start on this one. We did the same thing. We went out, had some public meetings, and the bridge on the right is what they came up with. So it'll be metal rails, single pier, and you'll see those platforms kind of in the middle right there with some lights on it. So both of these bridges are going to be really good and really improve downtown, not just for transportation, but for people that go down there for recreation all the time. So both of those bridges are fully funded. This one is not yet. We're looking at different ways that we can pay for it, possibly with federal discretionary grants and formula funding. This one, we get more attention. We get more calls on this one than any because, I mean, you look at it, it looks like it's falling apart. This bridge was built in 1966 when it was designed really for cars. Not a lot of thought when it came to pedestrians and bicycles. So we talked to the community and we found out how they want us to design this bridge. And they do want sidewalks and biking available on this bridge. So we're planning on, once those two bridges are done, we're gonna start on this one, possibly as early as 2027. So a really important program that we have is our pavement preservation program, and that's keeping our good roads good. We have, I think, $22 million a year we put towards this program. The first one is preventive maintenance, and that's really the lowest cost ones. We'll do some crack seals, patching, and some slurry seals. This is a picture of a before and after of Sparks Boulevard, but you can just kind of see how important it is, how pretty busted up there on the left, and then it looks like a brand new road on the right. It really does extend the life of the roadway. Saves us a lot of money in the long run. If we just let the road crumble, it would cost twice or 10 times as much to repair the road, rebuild the road than it is to maintain it.
Which of these projects, how do you decide you're gonna do it versus City of Sparks or City of Reno?
Jeff, you want to answer that? So this is Jeff Wilbrecht. He's our engineering manager.
Yeah, my name is Jeff
Can you
Wilbrecht,
come over here a little bit, Jeff?
engineering manager for RTC. So your question was, which roads does RTC take care of versus?
Versus Reno or Sparks?
Yeah, so actually in the RTP, we worked with the city of Reno and Sparks, Washington County, and we have Appendix F, which is lists out all the roads which RTC is going to perform this type of pavement preservation upon. And really, the kind of fundamental idea behind it is it's all the bigger roads. So the roads that have more ADT, which is average annual daily traffic. The way that I kind of think of it is that serves the majority of the community. So it's the roads that you leave your house, you might go on a local road and then you jump onto a busy road like Plumas or Arlington. It's those bigger roads.
So Plumas or Arlington is an example of one you would do,
Correct.
and Steamboat, Rio Wrangler, all these bigger,
Both of those roads.
but the ones in between, that's what the city's focus, because again, remember, next Wednesday, the city's gonna propose their next round of these pavement projects.
So the next one that we do is corrective maintenance, and that's a little bit more expensive. It's where you take that top layer of asphalt off the road and you put a new layer down. Another way to extend the life of the road, and then finally the rehabilitation, and that's when the roadway itself has kind of gotten to the end of its life. But the materials in the roadbed are still good, so we can reuse that material and rebuild the road. So a couple other programs we have, 3 of them, traffic signal modifications, intelligent transportation systems, and traffic engineering. And when it comes to the traffic signal modifications, this is really more like intersection. So it could be the traffic signal itself, it could be making ADA compliant curbs, things like that. Intelligent transportation system is really getting the traffic signals to link together to communicate better. And then traffic engineering is really just making the entire roadway, how would I say this, making the entire roadway really safer, more functional.
Yeah, so Jeff Wilbrecht again. So this program, we really look at operations of the signals and want to make the traffic signal or the intersection is Paul was saying, optimize it. So it could be that it needs a right turn pocket or a left turn modification. There's different ways that signals work, the phasing, so we'll tinker with that. We work a lot with city staff to identify these needs and implement them. I would say that the items that come out of these projects really pay dividends in terms of what they serve the community versus going through and doing a large steamboat project. For example, we just recently completed steamboat. That was a $10 million project versus these are, we're doing for $1 million to $2 million. So we really deliver a lot out of these smaller projects.
And another thing with the traffic signal modifications, it can also be roundabouts that we're building for redoing, reconfiguring. 2025 bridge resurfacing. So we got 4 bridges we'll resurface this year: Coonsley Street, Evans Avenue, Valley Road, and Ralston Street. And some upcoming ones this year. So the Virginia BRT improvements, the bus line that I was talking about. So that top left picture right there, that's what we call a mini BRT station. We're gonna go and we're gonna remove those and we're gonna put full-size BRT stations in there. On the bottom left there, you can see the ramp that comes off of that bus. This shelter was built when we were using bigger buses. So the platform is too high for these buses. So we're gonna take those platforms down so that the ramps can go flush, so people with wheelchairs can get onto the bus. It also removes tripping hazards for people that are getting on and off the bus. Finally, the right picture there, we're going to install a bus only lane between Peckham Lane and Plum Lane. West Fourth Street safety. So Keystone Avenue to McCarran Boulevard. Some of these projects are not necessarily in Ward 2, but they're real close and a lot of people use these roadways. So Keystone Avenue to McCarran Boulevard. Two of the big things we're doing with these ones is we're putting two roundabouts in. One's at Stoker Avenue, one is at Summit Ridge Drive. We're gonna reduce the lanes. There's a lot of speeding along this roadway. We're gonna put a multi-use path along the side of the road that's separated to make things a lot better for people that want to ride their bike or walk. And we're also gonna rehab the pavement itself. This is one of us talking about, not necessarily Ward 2, but it's right across the street from Ward 2. And who doesn't go to the mall? So there's 3 roads that you use to get into the mall. We're gonna do a rehab on these ones. So you got Meadowwood Mall Way, Meadowwood Mall Circle, and Neil Road, or Neil Way. And that's gonna be the basically recycling that roadway surface and putting that in the road. Next year, biggest little bike network. So we've identified 4 different routes for improvements for bicycling and riding scooters. Vine Street, Virginia Street, Lake Street, and Fifth Street. One of the big reasons we wanted to do this is just to really get more people using active modes of transportation to move from Midtown, the north of I-80 up to the University, downtown area, and really offer a healthier option for people to use transportation and make it just a lot safer and a lot more comfortable. People that want it. Other one is the White Brew rehabilitation that's gonna happen next year. This is out there. You guys know we just installed that roundabout on 4th and Woodland. This is just in that same neighborhood. So it's gonna be a road rehabilitation from basically the river right there, all the way over to the cul-de-sac. And then that red line up there is also, we're proposing to put a sidewalk in there as well. This is one that's really a regional project that we're looking at. We have seen with Trick, all the transportation that goes out there, all the cars that are using I-80 to get out there, and that's the only route people have between Reno Sparks to get there. So we're looking at alternate routes. So one of them could be La Posada to USA Parkway, to Spanish Springs, and the other could be South Meadows Parkway, over to USA Parkway. There's been some different ways that we're looking at funding that. Could be federal grants, could be public-private partnerships. We are talking with some of the businesses out there, Story County, Lyon County, really trying to figure out the best way we can move forward that. The city of Sparks brought forward AB 61, which would explore the idea of a toll road, which would be a privately built road. And people that want to use it would pay a toll or whatever. Right now, we wouldn't even go into studying this option because it's not legal in the state right now. So we wouldn't spend the taxpayer dollars. If they pass the bill, then we could go out, study it, find out if it pencils out. Maybe we would make it work, maybe we wouldn't. The other thing we're looking at is commuter rail. We would be working with Union Pacific and using their rail line. We're trying to find out if this would work. Would there be enough people that would use it? Is there enough time on that rail that we can run a commuter route to get people from Reno and Sparks out to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center? So these are all options we're looking at. Obviously, NDOT did get a grant so that they can widen I-80 between Sparks and USA Parkway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. But most of the people on our board agree that's really not enough. We still have to do a lot more. So this is something that really is a regional thing that affects everyone that goes from Reno and Sparks out there. Revenues. So in fiscal year 25, revenues are about $253 million. You can see the bulk of it comes from fuel tax, 42%, 18% from sales tax, 28% from federal funding, and then passenger fees, a little bit of money from NDOT, and then some other fees. Then our expenditures, you can see we're spending more than our revenue, $284 million, but that's because we planned ahead knowing that we had some projects to do. So we're not borrowing money or going into debt in order to do this. So about 30% of that goes towards our transit New roadway projects is 28.4%. The preservation and multimodal, that keeping our good roads good, that's about 30% of our budget. And then we do have a little bit of debt that we're paying, and then our operating is 1.6%. And I'll take any questions. So
Thank
with
you
that,
very much. Good presentation.
Dave Titzel for the record. First of all, I want to say thank you for considering more, different modes of transportation besides cars. So I have several questions here. First of all, I ride my bike a lot, and a lot of signals that I come up to will not sense me because they're an induction sensor. I know that you could put, on the top of a traffic signal, you know, like a camera that will sense people. Are you guys doing that more?
Yeah, so those are called, grid smart cameras. We work with city staff in Reno Sparks and Washington County, or just mostly Reno Sparks, to install those where appropriate. It doesn't work everywhere. So we do look at the opportune places to put those, like if there's bike lanes on that road or that intersection, we want to make sure that we're capturing that kind of stuff. So that was a long answer to yes.
Okay.
and in addition, I know the legislature is looking at a bill right now that would allow people on bicycles to use a traffic signal. If they hit a red light, they can use it as a stop sign, and they can use a stop sign as a yield sign. So I know that was brought up in that committee.
Second question is, I have to admit, I don't use the bus much, but I've been to other big cities and they have apps that tell you, you know, if I want to go from point A to point B, that you walk from where you are now to this bus station, and this bus will arrive at this time, and then you get on this other line. Does RTC have that now?
Yeah, we have the transit app, and the transit app does a really good job. I don't know if it's happening right now or if we're still working on it, but it's really gonna show on the app like your Uber does. You can see where the car is and it'll show where the bus is.
I believe it does right now. I used it like a year ago and told me the bus was gonna be there in 3 minutes.
And does that, consider all different modes, like it'll take you about this far to walk, so you know,
Yeah.
now to catch the bus?
It's not quite as good as like
Google Maps.
like Google Maps or Uber, but it gets you there, right? I think it's pretty good.
Okay, and then my last question, and I don't know if it applies to you, but were you guys involved with putting the signal on Moana at the pool?
Yeah, that was brought up next last year.
Did that meet signal warrants to put that signal in? I mean,
I know we coordinated heavily with the city on the pool and the location and how the pool access works, right? So all the entrance, you can enter on Moana, but you cannot exit and go all directions. And so I'd have to go look and see if it met all the warrants, but
I just think that would be a perfect place for a roundabout, and
oh, yeah.
that signal there just seems like. It's first of all, it seems like it doesn't meet signal warrants, which as you know, if you put a signal in where it doesn't meet warrants, it's actually not safe.
Yeah, we did actually recently go through a signal timing effort. That signal is connected to the one at Virginia Street. So they are all connected and talking. So that actually I live up Moana. So when I get off the freeway, come home, if I hit it right, I get greens the whole way. So it's coordinated and working the way it's supposed to work.
Well, let me just add, so I also use this a lot. I live right off Moana, and it seemed that, first of all, they needed it because to exit out of the pool, especially to take the left, you needed a light. And because you can't go left on Moana, out of the pool. Number two, there's constant traffic on Moana. I mean, there was no way to enter.
But a roundabout solves
A
it.
roundabout would have been great. I've had some challenges with the timing myself.
Okay.
What's happening is that the traffic is stacking up at the Moana entrance onto the freeway. Okay, onto I-580. It's stacking all the way back to Virginia.
Yeah, so I also seen that happen. So
Often to me, and I'm like, wow, what are we doing here? I mean, we're on Moana and you really can't cross because it hasn't allowed people to enter onto the freeway. So are you guys looking at that? Because I know you took over signal timing.
yeah,
from us.
we do all the signal timing. So I'll bring that back to the signal team, let them know that.
It's been a problem in the morning. Because people are having to hang back on
Yeah.
Moana.
I haven't experienced it in the morning. I've seen it in the afternoon.
Like,
and I'm going the opposite.
like 1 and 2 and 3, and there, it's also a problem. And another problem I've had, and maybe you fix this, is that the light is not well timed with the Virginia Street Moana light.
Yeah.
And you end up stopping at both of them often, which is confusing. I mean, I just think you should look at that whole little corridor a bit. I do.
All right, I think, another question.
My name's Jordan Benjamin. I have wondered about, do you have any jurisdiction over the Loomis and Aaron? That intersection that they're gonna put the purpose?
This is where the Lake Bridge is, where Lakeside and Plumas come out. Plumas and Lakeside, Plumas and McCarran is the F intersection. Lakeside and McCarran, I've heard is E, and I've heard it's a
You
F, but
What was that right? This is gonna be enough.
yeah.
So are you, do you know about light in that area or what's coming up in that area by any chance?
Yeah, so your councilwoman kind of gave a quick update on it. RTC is, so it's an NDOT facility, so we're RTC is kind of the ultimate middleman where we don't really own anything, but we're kind of trying to help both sides. The parents and NDOT facility, Loomis and Lakeside are City of Reno facilities owned. RTC and NDOT,
Lakeside is you?
no,
Oh.
city. RTC and NDOT, I think 2 years ago or so, we partnered and did a study of the whole McCarran loop. We did identify those improvements in that area that you're talking about. RTC is advancing the design of those improvements currently, but we have not identified funding for construction yet.
The traffic study.
So we do a public side of the traffic study. If you're talking about the development, the developer will do their own traffic study to kind of identify what their impacts are and how they're mitigating them.
That was like just at COVID, when they said it's a 1 second delay.
I think when they said that it will delay the traffic 1 second, it was in a 24-hour period. So I think that the impact at a particular rush hour time is much different. I mean, they literally said it would, 300 apartments will delay this 1 second. It is intuitively seems wrong. But I think they're looking at a 24-hour period when there's no traffic, after 7 all the way to 7 a.m.
That's a lie to do something.
I'm speculating because I couldn't understand this 1 second change. either.
Like Ginsburg for the record, so 8 o'clock, McCarran eastbound.
8 a.m.
8 a.m. Karen eastbound at Loomis. That traffic will back all the way to Greensboro.
Yeah, that's like 3 lights back onto McCarran.
That's 3 lights. No,
But that's not you, that's.
You have to look at that, right?
Yeah, we're doing the design right now to help with the project that we understand. We also do the signal timing, so we coordinate signals and help alleviate traffic in that regard.
Christian Montana for the record, I have 2 questions. The first one is on the captain's pay. I understand going to that, I'm big guy with my phone, but I know people that aren't. So if they go, I heard you said using your credit card on the bus?
Yeah.
If they can use it on the app on my phone. But you can tap your credit card on the bus? Okay, that would solve, because I have friends that don't have smartphones, we'll never get smartphones, we'll never, they take the bus.
Yeah, and if they still want to use cash, they can go and they can get their bus pass at the kiosk.
Yeah, that's all the way, downtown, we live like right here, so, yeah. And then my second question is on the accessibility ramps going to crosswalks and stuff, are you guys responsible for those? Okay, so I'll contact you guys at this major one out here, I use a scooter all the time.
I should say, when we're doing a project. we're
Okay,
responsible for
okay,
those, Yeah.
so there'd be a renal directing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, thank you.
Your contact information is in the handout, so if anybody has any follow-up questions.
Is there anybody else have?
I guess, back to, Councilor.
Did you say his name, please?
Molly. Record.
And can you stand up too, Molly, if you're not gonna?
Confronted with our developers, traffic surveys, all these surveys, which are obviously, self-driven and probably self-serving. And we're wondering if your organization has any access to traffic surveys that could counter that information that's provided by developers. So, do you have public information regarding traffic surveys and specifically in the area of Lake Ridge?
So. We don't, excuse me, this is Jeff Wilbert for Electric. We don't have or perform traffic surveys to like counter development per se. RTC works with City of Reno Development Services and Public Works to review those traffic surveys and look at how they are either compliant or not compliant or in support or not support of existing RTC plans that may be in place. So when this one has come through, we looked at it in comparison to the Karen study that we've done previously. Those traffic studies should also be looking at other existing data that RTC has available. So all reference to our RTP, or Regional Transportation Plan, that has a whole kind of traffic modeling component to it that goes into place of how you are developing, growing, and where capacity needs are. It's how a lot of projects are prioritized and identified in that plan. So we really, we look at it in that context. RTC is not an approving agency, so we are really supportive and like arm of the city. You know, what is city staff, what is city council, our council giving us direction to support. I don't know if that really answers your question. We're not an arm or a leg that would drive that process.
Right, but I think she's saying, do you have data about like the number of cars and,
Yeah,
you
so
know.
it's all in that, all in our RTP and of that study. that's been-
But how, I mean, the RTP is big. How do they zoom in on this?
So in that one specifically, I would recommend that they look at the Karen study. That is our most recent, most detailed component that relates to that.
What is that?
RTC on the website, we have the Karen Loop study that we recently produced and published. It's about 2 years ago. That's the most kind of relevant one of that. And from that, we are advancing projects and scoping projects.
All right, hang on then. Thank you very much. This is a great presentation. I do remember you talking about the bus routes that got connected. But thanks, it's really good news. Glad to hear everything that we had to say. So we're going to move on to our development projects. I think first up is, where are we on? We're on C1. C1, thank you, the Starbucks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brooke Oswald. Welcome new board members. I do appreciate the liaisons and we always could use more. Thank that. Welcome. Project tonight before you. It's case LDC 25-00042. Starbucks Booth Street. Carter Williams, Associate Planner Carter Williams is the planner on this that we've been working on this project with. I'll just quickly go over our team. This is Dake Development, Tommy Dake. We've been working with him, the property owner. Next slide, please. SCA has been working on our architectural design. Bowman Consulting has been doing the civil and site layouts. I am a rep, land planning and design. Also tonight, we have Chris with Hartfeld Engineering who did our traffic and queuing studies. We've also, I put Washoe County on there. They're not a direct partner or part of this, but we have been working with them. Their facilities manager reached out to me, Adam Searcy. I've also been working with their planning department on their needs because it is right adjacent to a school. And we're really interested in getting involved with the students. They want to get the students involved in development and construction and what it's going in, especially projects that are really located. So we're really excited as a team to start working with Washoe County and their students to help involve them on this project. The permit request is to construct an accessory drive-through facility associated with 1,600 square foot coffee shop. It's to allow commercial development adjacent to residentially zoned property. This is a really unique property. This is our property here. As you can see on our zoning, this being single family and multifamily zoning This is a unique area where we've got Keystone, it's probably over 200 feet from our site to the residentially zoned property. This being the adjacency, the next one, the allowed commercial development within 300 feet of a public school. Blue here is Reno High School.
Before you leave this, could you
Yep.
lay out all the streets again?
Oh, sure. This is, Keystone, coming here. These are, California, sorry. You've got the Keystone coming here and the Keystone off ramps. And then Booth Street running directly adjacent.
And what's the one behind, yellow?
Oh, yes, Marsh.
And then where is this gonna be situated exactly?
The arrows are missing. I had the sites tagged originally, so this would be our site here. On this site, it's here. So on the zoning, this is our master plan, looking at that very high level. This is suburban mixed use, so we're looking at a mix of uses, commercial, residential, multifamily.
And
then we
where's
go to-
the school?
The school is the blue, which is Reno High, and I have a photo next that'll really give an aerial. This is a little higher.
What's on the property now?
It's currently vacant, and it has been vacant for a very long time. Everything else is developed. It is a infill site to the X extreme. It's just one of those sites that hasn't been moved. You'll see why. There are some constraints to the site.
Vaguely think there are two colors to the east of the school, but I can't tell. Are there two?
This is the federal building here. This is a professional office that they have that zoned. What is unique, RMC, we just did that Title 18 update. That does allow, with a conditional use permit for us to, apply for that drive-through in that neighborhood zoning. The master plan that we're looking at suburban, most people know the area. It's the CBS over there, the number of kind of, neighborhood, Reno High School. The master plan, we're looking at well-managed growth, vibrant neighborhood, safe and healthy, inclusive, and some of the sustainability goals on that. Next slide, please. So this will give us a little better. So here we have Booth. Keystone coming down here, California Ave. Our project site is here. You can see the big R, Reno High School. This is the federal property, with their parking with the solar. We have some really interesting uses around this in the neighborhood commercial. So we have a car wash, convenience stores, the CVS, there is a gas station, which is really unique. We have automotive, we have a small drive-through coffee shop here. What's interesting in this area, it is zoned, neighborhood commercial. Most of those uses would require some other sort of entitlement, a minor use or a minor, site plan review or conditional use permit. Because that development's so old, they were grandfathered in. So we have uses that are very similar of some car and auto oriented uses in this area. We're seeing our parks at our school. We've got Idlewild down there. It was very great to hear RTC talk a little bit tonight. One of the things you'll see here is the Keystone Bridge project that's in that feasibility. As we look at how Keystone Bridge comes over Booth Street, our site is literally like right here. One of the things we're excited about is that active transportation they're starting to talk about that we could see in that. So that would be that bike, pedestrians, and some of those other safety issues coming over into that area. So we've been working, we've attended some of the meetings. We'll continue to work with them to make sure our project's incorporating it in that. We've gone over the roadways. We can go to the next slide. So this is specific site. As you can see, it's a vacant site. It's one of the few vacant sites anywhere in this area. We have the school, multifamily, housing, commercial development around the project site. It's about a half acre. It is a really unique opportunity. There's been some other uses looked at on that site, and it's just really hard to make anything work in pencil on this site. So I think we found a good use and a good opportunity here for this site. Some of the constraints on the site, you have Keystone running down this way, which sort of limits our access off to Booth. We have an signalized intersection here. You can see the crosswalks. So which really puts our drive back into this area. We did look to see if we could partner to get one single drive coming with the neighboring partner. It's a federal property and they're very restrictive on how their properties can be used. So we are limited to come in, and you'll see on our next slide where we come up in here. Our infrastructure, because it is in infill, our infrastructure, we do have to run a little bit of sewer, but that's all in place or can easily get to the site. In talking to the school, one of the things they really like is that we are adjacent directly on a signalized intersection for that safety. As you can see the site here looking up, you can see not only do we have quite a bit of distance between those homes, there's probably 30 to 40 feet of elevation change that happens between that. I think many of you know the home up on the hill there that you can notice on that.
Where
Next.
did you say you're gonna enter?
We would be entering off of Booth. We are really restricted to this is about the only access point that we can get there. We've looked at the others, the Keystone one, not just because of the bend, the speeds there. One of the nice thing on Booth, we're 25 miles an hour. And then during those school times, we go down to 15 miles an hour. So we have
So they would take a right off of,
off of Booth, yeah.
Keystone Bridge, at the Keystone Bridge meeting, they also had, they were proposing to expand that to 4 lanes, a complete bike lane and a complete pedestrian lane. So why would you intersect those new common areas to go through and drive in accomplish?
I'm not quite, I think we would see the expansion of Keystone across
No, it's
here.
on Booth Street.
And then coming down, and there could be, potentially, you know, they have that, we're continuing to work with them on that, but with where our property is, they haven't been. There's been no consideration of taking any property of that, so we are, you know, aware that those are changes and have had, you know, initial input on that. But that, we're gonna see some changes on how all that connectivity and that happens.
what I'm saying is you're coming off Keystone,
If you can go to the next slide, it'll probably make it easier.
they're right on Booth.
So if you were looking at Keystone, so this is Booth, this is Keystone coming down in here. We are really only limited to that access point.
To a right in, or can they cross Booth?
They will be able to cross Booth and go across, so it'll be, not limited on, left or right. To go over quickly, you're looking at the site, our access off of Booth, and in and out, you come in, come back over this way. Our stacking begins back in this area, which would basically, remove our parking. We're providing 16 parking stalls, we're required 10. Some of the unique things we did, we put these in, these would be, reserved for employees, getting them out of the main area. They'll be striped and signed accordingly to limit that. You can see where our pedestrian sidewalk coming across, coming through and tying back over this end. We can stack 12 cars back into this area here. That meets and exceeds, Reno's standards for queuing and stacking. We did a queuing stacking on that and how that would happen. The other is we looked at the roadway. This is because of this unique site, we're not generating traffic to a site. It's really anticipated that a lot of it's going to be traffic that's going by anyway. One of the challenges is that morning 7:40 when school starts, and that's one of the challenges that it is. And so, we've got a required stacking, and that there. The other thing that is unique about Starbucks is the way they run their operations. So they're trained. You're seeing a lot more, online so you can order. Their menus are becoming quicker, so they're quick order menus. Their staff is trained to prep and move food out. And so you've got not only a queuing that's sort of taking care of the traffic, you've got a management that's going. They additionally, if they can see other problems, they can send people out and start taking orders off of pads and putting those through to continue to move. So they've dealt with this in many situations, and they continue to kind of advance their management and operations on that. You can see just a small low profile building, 1-story building, coming in this area. One of the other unique things is there's a large patio situation here. The developer met with the principal in the past. They were actually really excited for the students to have another food option or another option down in this area in close proximity to the school. Additionally, you've got your landscape coming in, providing new trees along Keystone, along the frontage, back along back drainage. We're also seeing some mature trees along the federal property here, creating a lot of the screening and buffering through that. Our trash pickup comes back in here. We'd anticipate it'll be in the same architectural style as the building. makes easy access, and that would be timed, on those off hours to avoid that. I think if there's anything else. I think that kind of covers it. I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Sean McCoy for the record. Could we go back, a slide? This is fine. I guess my concern is recognizing where the entrance is, and it looks like you even had the foot entrance is in that top kind of, I guess I would call that the northwest corner, right? So if we go back to that slide. The crosswalk is way down here, the corner. Family went to Reno High, lived in this area for years. Kids aren't staying in the crosswalks. They're not gonna come all the way down here to walk across, then walk up and then walk in. Was there any discussion about creating any type of additional crosswalk here where that limited entrance is?
True.
Just recognizing that kids are kids.
Yeah.
And they're
And
not gonna,
that was the same sort of comment, and I had the same sort of thoughts. We are working with the school district. Now, mid-block crossings are sometimes rather hard to get established, and now that happens, and so it would be a system through a request to the city, and then that would be analyzed on Booth and see if that's warranted, but that is an option. We also have, some other options of some striving of keep clear areas and some other things like that, that potentially could be, implemented to kind of help organize and structure that through there.
So I was able to get a mid-block crossing right here on Moana, sorry, over here, where Clover is. So there is a street. But it's the same point. The people were not gonna come all the way down to Lakeside, cross and go back to where they need to go to Moana, to the nursery. And to the Chabad, which is across the street. So I got it. I actually got it through RTC. This is before I was on council. It's 2013 timeframe. 2012 timeframe. So there are such things, and we have done them. The only other thing that they can do is what they did at UNR, which is to fence that entire length to keep kids from crossing, right? And force them to use the crosswalk. Because I 100% agree with you. It's gonna be steady stream.
We understand that.
okay. My other question is just about, we were talking about Keystone and how it's gonna be restructured for bikes and walk paths. I don't see any, if we go to the next slide, I don't see any access point from Keystone. So would people have to walk all the way here to Booth, walk all the way up and then go in?
Well, and that's gonna be working with RTC and seeing how they're going to regulate that bike traffic, pedestrian traffic, and the traffic. So we are in contact with them, working with them right now, because we can't send people up Keystone because of the situation. So what we'll be doing is, the sidewalk is 6-foot sidewalk along the front, which is expanding that, making sure we're getting plenty of walking space there. And then as RTC comes through with their plans, we would be, integrating. I would either gather it coming back up Keystone, crossing over the sidewalk and up the other side, or however that ends up getting, sort of designed in that way.
But nothing from the backside, like.
Right now, we don't, just because we have the existing Keystone, until they have a plan in place, and then, we would sort of help to support RTC's improvements as they came down and install those improvements.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any images that show your project and the entrances to Reno High?
I don't have an exhibit that shows that. We can go back a couple and I can kind of show you, go back one more. So I believe you've got a Reno High entrance here. It's, those that went to Reno High may know also, I believe you can get here. You've got the back parking lot. And then I think most of it is, accessed off of Foster. There's a series of, egress points along Foster.
So can you identify the entrance to Reno High that's closest to your project?
I would imagine it is right here, is where we're gonna see that.
On Booth Street?
Yeah, off of Foster.
Oh, off of Booth Street would be right there before the giant roundabout in front of the school.
Yeah, that's right. So
Just south of the green on Booth Street.
Right,
Yep.
yep, right there.
It's right there.
I'm not gonna, I understand your map may not be to scale, but it looks like if you have a stack inside your parking lot of 4 cars, roughly 4 cars,
No, I don't think he said that.
Well,
No.
no, I understand you have a capacity for more, but in the area that you have a staff and that you have work or on, if that same staff existed on Booster, in other words, waiting to go into your establishment, that would completely block access to Reno High for the people who are coming off of that turnabout to go to school.
If it was overstacked going out into Booth Street, what we have done is create our design plan and our studies to help to mitigate that from happening, right? And so ample stacking, our queuing, where our signs are placed and the amount that runs, and then, the operational sort of things of how quickly you can move the traffic through there. And so it really, that Reno High School thing is about, I think it's 20 minutes, and I think Chris can probably speak a little better to the traffic and kind of how that will get on that.
Chris Maltz, Hartford Engineering. So this is one way on
Chris,
Keystone.
could you say who you are again?
Yeah,
You sort of mumbled. so-
Sorry, Chris Maltz, Heartfelt Engineering,
Which engineering?
Heartfelt Engineering.
Heartfelt engineering.
So we have Keystone off right here. During the morning, probably 15 to 20 minutes before and the 15 minutes after. This entire corridor is just filled with cars. Nothing is functioning how it should be. People are parking. If you go to there, you kind of understand it. Outside of that window, everything is pretty light traffic through here. There are a lot of pedestrian traffic, but they seem to be using the crosswalk and bike lanes. But yeah, there's, until you get people to start, you know, you have traffic guards in here queuing people through the parking lot, that you're not gonna fix that problem that's happening at 7:40. So, but yeah, this lane right here, so there's actually a center turn lane. Can we go to the next slide? There we go. So right here, we have the southbound left turn lane, and here it actually turns to a left northbound left hand. So that's how people queue in, and in the morning, people are queuing all the way down here, same thing through B Street, people are going southbound. Like I said, I used to live right next to Queen High School. You get used to it in your schedule, like, hey, this is the school start time, I'm gonna adjust my schedule accordingly. Most of the coffee trips, it's gonna people that already live in the area. People aren't going across town to the coffee shop. They're gonna plan their day around it and say, oh yeah, it's 7:40. Oh, I'm not gonna go get coffee right now. I might just go to work.
Or I'm gonna go down Keystone.
Yeah.
And I'll get my coffee at that.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, I mean, I think people are gonna kind of realize, hey, so this is kind of a madhouse. You might have people, parents drop off their kids, then afterwards get some coffee, but I don't think I think people adjust their habits based on the school schedule, because you have to already.
So you're closing for a half hour
Yeah.
Yeah, in theory, yeah. I think
or
so.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
The adjusted habit then would be access other residential streets, so to Reno High.
Yeah, so we're not really changing the high school pattern at all. Like I said, coffee is a pass by trip. So a pass by trip is you're driving down the street, ooh, I need gas, pull into the gas station there. Oh, I'm really tired, there's a coffee shop on my way to work, I'm gonna go there. So a pass by trip is a trip. They're already going somewhere. And there's been extensive studies on this, and they're just kind of making a detour into the coffee shop. Yes.
Hey, Sean Whitford, could you explain that to my family? Because they don't do stop bys. It's a destination for my family and everybody I know, especially Starbucks. And they don't drink, they drink coffee between like 7 and 8. This is
Yeah.
like prime time for buying coffee.
Yeah.
So I mean, I appreciate the idea that, people just won't use the facilities for an hour every.
Well, I'm not saying they won't,
But people don't go on the app and go, oh, there's
Yeah.
a warning here about, there's a school, when I'm placing my order for Starbucks, maybe I should look somewhere else. They're not gonna.
No, but what I'm saying is the people that are gonna use this Starbucks are people that live in the surrounding area.
But those are the people that, pardon me, that
Yeah.
already use the drive-in coffee shop that's across the street. So what does that mean for that business that's been there for 40 years?
like, my job is to analyze traffic, not necessarily business practices and demands. That's for the developer to decide, but my entire job is to make sure that the drive-through kind of has as much queuing as possible and that people can get in and out. Yes.
Like Jim for the record, so you're assuming that parents are the ones going to this coffee shop, but I would.
No,
assume
I'm
it's
assuming a
high
lot of
school-
people.
I would assume it's high school kids are gonna love this place out there. Gonna be the kids that are driving. Probably gonna drive in with their friends, they're gonna be coming across, or we'll go park and they're gonna be coming across, so. I think that crosswalk, at least getting them into this place is very important.
Yeah, my personal recommendation would be to talk with City of Reno and getting this fixed so people don't jaywalk across. Because if you put that signal there, you're giving them a false sense of security when you have a green light here and someone comes around the corner and. Like I said, it's giving them a false sense of security, and I think it's actually more dangerous to tell this intersection. Sorry if I'm talking quietly.
I just have one more question.
Yes.
For your department, when you go in and out of the driveway of the parking lot, as you come out, will there be an option for a left-hand turn? Or is
Yeah,
it-
it's a full access driveway. Like I said, if they're coming at, 7:40, 7:45, they're probably gonna have to wait a while or turn right out of there instead of turning left. Any other time, realistic maximum number of cars stacked up is 3 here at those AM peak hours. There's usually not a lot of traffic on Booth Street aside from those school hours, so.
So just to remind you all, the reason you're hearing about this is you're orally raising these issues, but you're allowed to write them down, email them in, and give your opinion. That's what you're here for. And you're chosen because you know neighborhoods. Okay? Yes.
Hi, Donna Keats for the record. On our agenda, it says you're going through for conditional use permit. I'm assuming it's a minor one?
No, this would be a full
It's a
condition, so we
major?
will be going to the planning commission. If it was administrative, we wouldn't be going to the
Okay,
NAP,
so it's a
so,
major, so
yeah.
just PC.
yep, PC, and we are anticipating to go to PC April 2nd, we will be going.
Okay.
So we were originally scheduled for last month's NAP, but I think because of some of the
Yeah,
scheduling,
yeah.
so we weren't making, and that's why that time's a little crunched. We
Okay.
would have liked to get it before you. a little
But it's
bit.
not ultimately crunched. A lot of times the planning commission is the next day after.
Yes, and we were actually scheduled to go the 19th, and we went to the 2nd to kind of give a little time, so we would have been going to planning commission tomorrow with stuff, so there is a little bit more time to get some
Okay,
comments.
so I'd like to, talk about the things that are
Oh, I didn't know.
specific, they're
Yep.
specific to your major conditional use permit application. So those items are proximity to a school,
Yep.
right? Proximity to a residence.
Correct,
Okay, so the residence is within 300 feet is the trigger for that.
yes.
Okay, so can you go back to your other map and actually show us where the 300 feet to the
So
residence?
back to the zone, if you can go back to the zoning map, the very first, or this one works. So we have, this is, Savannah 14, or that comes through here. This is all hillside, won't be developed as residence. This is across California, up the hillside, the 2 walls. This is the residential that we're seeing here. So if we go,
That is actually 300 feet from, okay, so
This is-
between
this is
300
over-
feet, if you cross Keystone, California, and that really steep undevelopable area,
yeah,
before you get to residence. that's
before you get to the
right.
residence. And so we don't anticipate any, and that staff sort of said the
Topographically,
same.
they are lower down.
What's that?
Aren't they topographically?
No, they're topographically higher. They're much higher. If you go, to,
Oh, it goes the other way.
next
Okay.
slide,
I
yeah,
just
it goes
have to
up,
see
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Right now, working with staff, it hits these triggers. We're not anticipating the residential being key in our lighting with the landscape, lighting, screening. It really should,
So the 300 feet and the size, if you're on your quarter of an acre, your building takes up a quarter of your quarter, or you have a half an acre more or less, so.
Yeah.
You're taking up with your building. A quarter of an acre.
1,600 feet,
Something like that.
1,600 square
So
feet.
from
yeah.
the building, like your property line to the residence is thing A, but from your actually building, it's more than 300 feet. Or is it?
The building itself, yeah, being located down in here, I would probably say it's still about 250.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a trigger. That doesn't look like that's too much of a problem because you can manage the lighting issues with the streets.
Yeah, and then you've got the topography and also you've got 4 lanes of traffic before you get to it.
That's the.
That's the
commercial
residential,
development
yeah.
Adjacent to the residential. Okay, then we have the commercial within 300 feet of a public school.
Yep.
And
We are
now
directly
we have-
adjacent.
Right now, we already have the whole village shopping center, that's, not, probably a little more than 300 feet, right? But then the students go there maybe to grab lunch, grab coffee. Walk around the parking lot and just hang someplace off campus. Is that village shopping center heavily used right now by the students? Do you have any idea? Yeah, okay, so by you. What we really have here for you on Starbucks is a different commercial next to school. Is the traffic stacking, that's that part of the high school fee, right? So nobody's running across the street. It seems to me, because if Starbucks is willing, or the franchisor is willing to take the risk of nobody buying coffee for an hour in the morning. Well, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of at
It's
theirs,
kind of-
and-
They know that.
Yeah,
But it's not up to us, so could you somehow talk your folks into just discussing the fence issue, so we could just obliterate this whole problem?
yeah, we're certainly open to that. Like I said, we're in communications with the school and the school district and some of that. Obviously, this would probably become, it may become either on if it's on Reno High's property or city property, how that runs with the sidewalk and where that is.
Yeah,
we're-
put it on the high school property, make it safe for everybody, and cut out all the baggage that has to go along with moving the city.
Yeah,
In other words, you could maybe approach your clients to make a deal with the high school, if they seem to think it's a good idea. When you say working with students, do you mean involving them in the process of making?
in the process of the entitlement, the construction, development, so
like-
they're really interested in getting students and then also having an active voice in what's happening around. So they're looking at it as an opportunity, something that's close to the school that the students can engage and be part of. That may lead to a profession in engineering, architecture.
Talking to them about having, an actual engagement program, and students can sign up for it to talk to.
They're kind of structuring that, so they have something with the student voice, they've been active on a couple other projects, and because of this one, they actually reached out to us and asked us if we would help work with them to do that, so we're happy to do
I
that.
don't really understand, Brick. Are you saying have them have input into this project or something else?
So there's input, but it's more, going through the development process, what does it mean for city government, what is the
Are you
city?
talking about a new coursework?
Go ahead.
So would it be more like a learning experience for
It's,
students?
yeah, a learning experience, and we are in the early stages, so we're trying to figure out what that looks like.
Are you talking though, after your coffee shop is built, something past that?
And possibly, and I
I mean,
think,
you're
but I
going to
think we're
plan
really
commission
looking,
in
I
2
think
weeks.
we're in 2 weeks, and hopefully, and they're on spring break right now, so we
Right.
just hit a weird time. But we are in communication, we are meeting we're gonna meet, with them when they get back from spring break. And then we're trying to, work with the student groups and those groups, they have some programs, and we're not quite sure what it looks like, but we're open to talking to them and kind of seeing where it goes. I'm gathering it's going to be sort of development and public engagement and some of those things that they maybe want to talk. So we would maybe go talk about what we do. It could be engineering. It really is, we're gonna let them set the curriculum. We're just open to helping support that.
So the sticking point here is the probable traffic stacking, which you think you have already, if it turns out that you missed the guess and you didn't get it right, there's a real problem where you just have to deal with that on the back end.
Sorry, what's the issue?
The stacking, right?
What's the issue with the
And now,
stacking?
It seems to me that's what people are concerned with.
Go.
No, please explain what the issue with the stacking is.
That's what has come up, that if you have stacking coming out, you're gonna interfere with the traffic and.
No, I'm saying if people show up at 7:40 when school starts.
So let's just assume they do.
Yeah.
I'm dropping off my kid, I'd drive through and get my coffee.
Yeah.
Let's just assume they do. So you must have some idea about how you're gonna manage that, if not just assume people aren't gonna use it at 7:40.
Well, they can't physically come from if they're coming from southbound Booth, they wouldn't be able to enter, they'd have to come from northbound Booth.
Okay, because they won't be able to take a right turn.
Yeah,
Or
exactly,
left.
or left turn.
Okay, all right.
But I don't understand. I thought you said they could access it.
They can, but what I'm saying is,
It's just
School-
traffic stacking. is
During
too large.
school, nothing is
Nothing
functioning
functions there.
in this area at all. And, yeah,
You're
nothing's
just saying
functioning.
legally they could, but practically.
Yeah, practically, based on what I've seen, it's not happening.
I
Okay,
mean, people
so,
might start queuing up and waiting, and opening that spot so someone could turn in.
Yeah, people like and stuff.
so there's that issue and there's the issue of the safety of the school kids, right?
Right.
That's another thing. So, you say that you're talking about, okay, whatever that.
Well, we're
means.
working with the facilities and their manager and other sort of options.
At
that we
school?
put At, with the school district,
And
yeah.
is your client willing to bill for a fence?
We would have to see what that looks like. I can't, speak for that or
Okay,
what
well,
that.
I would say that's a good presentation. It's probably doable. For what it's worth, I would make my recommendation to proceed to condition this approval with a fence for the school kids. Let the people buy their coffee or not as they will, but to protect the school kids, that's what I would probably do. And that's something that's amenable. It's gonna be, because I think this is gonna be a problem for any business that goes on this chunk of property. I mean, not stacking so much, it's not a drive-through. If we had a seated restaurant, we wouldn't be having the same discussion most likely. So. but- but
Any business there, you're gonna have kind of a discussion of how it. functions.
Yeah, not any business,
No.
because this is a
This
drive-through
is a drive-through,
business.
so it's a different
And it's,
problem.
come in, spend 10 minutes and leave, so there's a lot of in and out, in and out. But if you had a professional office building where they parked there and they went in the building and talked to people and then came out an hour later, that's a whole different traffic.
The
thing.
student body
It
wouldn't
is,
be
and
going
I think
across the
it's
street to
the-
visit
it's
here.
the- It's the viability.
Like an engineering office.
Yeah,
Let's
and
say.
it's just the viability of that.
So I just wanna, most of you were not here when Dutch Brothers came in front of us, maybe 3 of you were. And this particular, I'm just gonna be honest, this particular NAB wrote in a lot of concerns. Particularly about stacking off Virginia and that they had not built enough parking and stacking on the site. That was overruled, the planning commission approved it, the staff approved it. And then began the enforcement process over and over and over. I'm just sharing, so you know what we've been through here. Brought up all these issues, they didn't address any of them. And then it became this ongoing enforcement issues. This one was with Dutch Brothers in front of the convention center. Okay? And they're stacking out on Virginia Street. They don't have advanced processing. They didn't, this group recommended 2 drive-through windows, security to get the cars off of Virginia. Okay? Eventually, the city rarely fines people. They started fining them. Okay, fining them and fining them. To the point that they were shutting them down.
Is
Okay,
the city was finding Dutch Brothers or was finding the,
fining Dutch Brothers.
okay.
Because this is all in their operations. They picked a site that was too small, didn't provide enough stacking and parking. And I'm
I
just
think that
sharing
location too, that's on a major arterial roadway. just
Virginia, but
traffic
people are
that-
running across the street
Yeah.
from the convention center. And so I'm just sharing that we've been here before. These are all important considerations, right? Whatever you think is appropriate or not. You don't see a problem, you don't see a problem. If you do. But I'm just sharing some past history. So if you see issues, you should make sure you write them down or convey them.
And
Okay.
in that,
And the audience is allowed to do this too. You can send in your comment card tonight on this.
Just a quick thought, when is the approval? for this?
April 2nd at planning commission.
that's 6 p.m. at City Hall.
And that all said, I love Starbucks, but I will say this, I do a destination. I will go there and get the coffee, go home.
But maybe not at 7:40.
No, not here, not at 7.
Go local, go down to Coffee House.
I just have one follow-up question with the engineer. Have you actually done a site study in terms of how many actual cars pass through there?
Yeah. Yeah,
What is it?
so we have, so in the traffic study, we have a bunch of vehicles, so I gotta find it. But there's like 4 times the traffic in that high school morning hour versus, so like 7 to 8. There's 4 times the traffic as there is from 8 to 9. So that's like a crazy fluctuation.
But you don't have those numbers of the top of your head?
No, because there's like
There is a
1,000 numbers.
report. I think it was, we've got like, you do have peak hour trips, so you have them in the morning and the evening, and oftentimes and it's peak hour trips or look at those. And I believe it's been, I read it, I think it was about 1,500 vehicle trips or 1,500 vehicle trips. In a certain, it's all driven really by the school at that point in time, and then it drops really down to 300 to 500 that it kind of runs at normal rate.
Right, so to answer your question, at the intersection of Keystone and Foster and Booth, 1,227 vehicles during the morning early hour, so that's 7 to 8 AM. And that drops down to 527 vehicles the following hour. And then PM peak hour, so really school's out, but this gives you an idea of people returning from work and leaving work. 830 vehicles for that intersection. So there's a prominent impact from school being right there.
And I think if you look at something comparing that to Keystone, I bet Keystone has 25,000 vehicles go by an hour.
And that might sound like a lot, 1,227 vehicles, but compared to other major arterials in the area or minor arterials, it's not a lot of total vehicles through that intersection.
Right, but they're all going within a few blocks and you yourself said it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would guess probably 60% of those vehicles were in that kind of crazy window around school.
So got enough info?
Yes.
Regarding Dutch Brothers.
That meeting is April 2nd.
Correct, at 6 PM at City Hall.
City Hall.
Yep, in the chambers,
Given
first floor.
the circumstances of having a piece of property that's vacant, then going to the planning commission with the project. And then there are 3 issues with their meeting that they need conditional use. So when Dutch Brothers came through, there was this concern about traffic. We can't say we'd rather not see a drive-through on this corner. I mean, we can, but it doesn't matter. Because anything that's
I'm not gonna answer that. I mean,
No.
it's zoned for a certain thing.
Yes, okay, my question is not that, I'm not asking you to ask me that question, what I'm asking you is, what all did you say about Dutch Brothers when this came to you? What suggested 2 drive-throughs maybe, just?
Yeah, we suggested they change operation. There's concern about trees. They had no seating area outside. There's a proposal for that. I think there was a lot of discussion about the convention center, people walking across 4 lanes of traffic with a divider and there's no striped crosswalk. What they were expecting is that the staff would put in conditions to address each of these. And there were a fair amount of conditions put in. It's just they didn't follow through on the conditions. Okay? They didn't have a double window. They didn't have people out with clipboards taking. Okay, all of these things were proposed.
Did they make it into the approval? Do you remember at all?
Yes, a lot of
They
them,
were actually there.
some of these things made it as
I
conditions.
see,
They didn't do it.
I see. So that's why.
Through enforcement of them trying to fix a problem.
You were there then.
Yeah, I did, it was not my project, but I was aware, and I mean, there were some challenges with that, just given the location and next to the convention center, the use, and it's different things. So it has been I know it's been a real challenge for the city, and it has been one of those.
And they tried to build.
And that's something
bridges too.
we took into consideration.
So at the Dutch
but-
Brothers in South Reno, they held a special day to help the city with a project for planting trees. I'm just saying.
Did a lot, didn't work out. Basically. All right, well, does anyone have any other questions? I'd like to move on.
I live in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it gets backed up in the morning and at lunchtime, the kids all leave to go to lunch.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vehicles and kids everywhere all the time when school's in session. I have a couple of concerns about the litter. Litter is already an issue there. To see maybe a sustainable Starbucks, like, do they have a pilot project or something like that? Where you wouldn't have a drive-through, where you have to bring your bike or walk or car to come in, not have a drive-through. Sustainability is a huge thing.
Yeah. And obviously it's challenged because that is largely those are driven by a drive-through, the drive-through coffee shop. Now you are seeing those, there's Starbucks downtown, Reno, that does not have, and that is in the old Harris building, that does not have that, but I think you're seeing those in those more dense areas where that can be supported.
Arlington,
Do you like that? Westfield Village, multifamily all around. Like, what if you had a Starbucks that encouraged like local, not drive your car through air pollution from the cups or litter, the straws, it's all over Boston and Bellevue. I live right there. I would love to see, like, really bring the school kids in and collaborate on something for that space, because it's, the picture of your parking lot, like, the cars are queued for the drive-through, how are those people even supposed to get out that are parked there? They're gonna have kids walking all over their cars trying to drive in, kind of nuts for that size parcel. I know that area. I'd like to see Starbucks.
Can you pencil this project out without a draft?
I'm not the developer on this project, and like I said, this is gonna look at a million different ways. I know they actually had an approval of a multifamily with a coffee shop and a drive-through, which would have created even more parking and dynamics. They had that was an administrative review and that didn't work, and so I know this property owners looked at several different sort of opportunities and that's kind of found this through working with a major chain developer to really make it function and make the project work. Now, in understanding that you do see, we have a piece of vacant land, so what that happens, that you were talking about the TIF, our property tax goes up once you get a use on that. Additionally, you're going to see the revenue generated by sales tax on that. That would go, directly to the city. And so even though that's another benefit when you develop or redevelop the site.
There's another Starbucks on Arlington and Plumas that is not drive-through.
Yeah.
Go to that one.
It's community Starbucks, like make it a community Starbucks, not a drive-through. Yeah,
Certainly, I
drive-through,
can take that to you can certainly take that to the developer and work, and see if that is, it is.
Okay, moving on.
You guys can address all of this. Okay, in your comments.
Thanks, Brooke. Appreciate that presentation. Okay, now we're gonna move on to item C2, which is the 1249 Humboldt parking variance. Any questions?
Hi, my name is Christian Jones. I'm representing Carlo Wordinghouse and the applicant for the project for 1249 Humboldt parking variance. So the goal of this variance is to just add an off-street parking spot off of Humboldt Street for the main unit on the property. Per the master plan, Plumas neighborhood calls for parking access to come off the alley. There is an additional unit that is rented out off the alleyway, so that essentially takes away all of the access to the parking off the alley while it's being used by the tenants of the rear unit.
Do you have a map you could go to first?
Yeah. It's,
I mean, just to get us.
yeah, and it's one of those where I noticed I should put one in here, but yeah, so here's the property. So we're looking at adding in the parking pad off of
Could you
Humboldt.
Identify the streets, please.
Yes, here's Humboldt right here.
Okay.
I'm not showing the full street just because I need to get the full scale of the project and for everyone to be able to see. On the other side here would be Humboldt Alley on the back of the property. At the street, the farthest down is Arroyo, up top is Monroe. So
Second, Councilman Maduro, there's a maps and graphics in the staff report. That's part of the package. Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, the plan is to add the parking pad off Humboldt Street, give parking access for the main unit there. Right now, for her master plan, all access and parking is coming off the alley.
Would you like me to go back on this?
So the goal is essentially just adding in that parking pad, doing the driveway apron, in the city right of way to be able to get the access off to Main Street for the car to come up and park. The sidewalk would be, redone to ensure ADA accessibility throughout that city right of way. So some of the main things that the property owner has been dealing with that we were trying to push for this variance, the main thing being they have an electric vehicle. Without being able to have the car on the property, it's running a risk of running an extension cord out to a street to charge their electric vehicle. This is just presenting more practical hardships as trying to promote kind of more green infrastructure, electric vehicle access, that sort of thing to downtown. They also commute to work by walking and also through a scooter. So when they're leaving their car parked on the street, it's longer than the 48 hours that is allowed per City of Reno code. So that's forcing her to relocate her car out from the front of her property just in order to avoid being ticketed by the city. And then, as I stated before, their rear unit is rented out to other tenants. The only parking access that is given is off the alley. These parking spots are taken by those tenants, therefore eliminating access for the main property owner to use. And then on top of the on-street parking that is being given, there's plenty of people that have multiple cars in this neighborhood. The cars are blocking their property. So if they don't have the access to the alley or parking in front of their property to charge their electric vehicle, they're forced to not be able to use that vehicle, which kind of pushes more concern of how are we going to implement electric vehicles into.
So they don't have a garage and they don't have a driveway.
Correct.
So they just have the frontage in front of their house.
Correct.
And so they've been running extension cords from their house to the car that's parked on the street.
Can I speak on the property?
Oh.
I can answer whatever question you have for that. So, yeah, I have a plug-in hybrid.
You say your name.
Yeah, my name is Carla Werninghouse. I'm the property owner for 1249 Humboldt. And in order to charge that vehicle, I either have to charge it in the back when there's not someone in there, or charge it someplace else in town where I can get to an outlet. I can't charge it in the front of the house. So if there's someone in the back unit and I can't access the outlets back there, I cannot charge it.
So your request is to build a parking pad in front of the house.
Correct.
And you've given examples in the neighborhood, in this packet of
There are.
others.
Correct.
And did they get a variance to do this?
So I went through the public record and was trying to see any permit history that they would have had to go through. From my knowledge, they would have had to do a minimum of an encroachment and excavation permit to do the city right of way work. I was not finding any proof
So
of that
these people
anywhere.
on these examples, like 1229 Lander and 1250 Humboldt, and you don't think they got permits to build?
I
the
was
driveway?
going through the City of Reno public records to try and find these. I was looking through planning department, engineering department, enforcement, looked through every single one, searched by property parcel, and could not find anything in relation.
When you talked to the staff, did they know of any, or? did
I
they-
brought up the same concern. I sent them the addresses and they said they would try to find if there were other records that I was not able to find. I did not hear anything back if they were able to.
And this is going to the planning commission as well?
Correct.
On the April 2nd also?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
So you have no example of someone getting a permit?
No example. The only thing I see is that as we are trying to do it the proper way and get this permit and have it approved through the city, we are facing these difficulties of, as we're following the proper process, we're being hit with these challenges versus people who don't, and they get to just do what they want.
Is this your property, the one in the back unit, an ADU?
So it is larger than the square footage that's generally used to describe ADUs. It's about 600 square feet. It's been there for quite some time. So that unit was built as like an in-law unit, decades ago.
To your house?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so
then
it's one lot with a front house, but never had a garage that I know of. And then a second like in-law unit was built in the back on the alley. So there is not a garage, there's
With a
not a
kitchen.
driveway. There's, yes.
And it's rented out.
completely contained.
And you own it?
I own it. It's
So
on the
you
same-
bought it because they wouldn't have permitted that either, because you're only allowed to have a, what is it called, a guest something, but it doesn't.
Guest quarters.
No, it's not called a granny flat.
Yes, quarters.
Well, it's like guest
Yes.
quarters and without a kitchen, but this one does have.
That unit was built in 1960
Right.
on the back, so
Got it.
it's, yeah, it's been there for a long time.
Okay.
I just wanted, in the staff report, we have Sean McCoy for the record. It does say that there are a handful of examples of vicinity of the site where property owners appear to have expanded paved areas with existing curb cuts to create additional parking. But it specifically cites RMC section 18.01.401, and that it indicates that non-conformities cannot be used as justification for the establishment of site improvements prohibited elsewhere in the same zoning district. And then finally, the staff is unable to identify previous variance approvals that establish a precedent in this neighborhood for this type of request. So it sounds like they looked and could not find that variance. So I struggle with this because I want to encourage people doing the right thing, which is clearly what the homeowner is doing by coming and seeking permission rather than forgiveness. And yet we still have these people who haven't, and so.
And so that, I'm sorry, that comment, I actually spoke with the city planner that's managing the case, and I brought that exact reason to him. So there are these other examples of people doing these parking pads. We can't use the exact parking pad design as our precedent. So he suggested using the precedent of they're just not going through the proper process, getting these permits to actually get the work done.
I have a question slash comment. Staff report says that you have actually got an accessible off-street second parking between the two buildings that you could utilize.
No,
I've not.
no, it doesn't. This is the front residence, this is the back residence. There's just a small area here where there's a little carport that's used for that. But you can't stack another car behind here. How would I?
Where is are they parking on the alley or
This is the alley, and this is the carport next to, this is the back
So you
house.
can't get through.
This is a little, you can't get through from here if there's a car parked in.
Yeah, and on top of that, there is also, I believe, at least 3-foot grade change from this level here to this level here, so that would call for a significant ramp in order to be able to get from the alley down into that yard,
Well,
create that access.
here's the thing, you own both places. You could just take the car park for your electric vehicle and have your tenant deal with being on the street.
I don't find that an acceptable option. I think that there's a door right here for the car here. Whoever has their car in here really should be the one going in that door, or doors that will be hitting the car or risk of it.
Well,
It is my property and I feel that the person who's living in here should have that parking place that's
I
next
agree
to
with
the
you.
house.
I agree with you on that score. I believe that there isn't really a basis for granting this variance. You look through the findings for the variances. You can't make those findings and you can't make the findings about consistency with the master plan, and therein lies your problem. There actually just isn't a basis for doing this variance. And for you to put, I see the pictures, but I also see the pictures that you put, some of it used to be a driveway and then there's a one pad behind. What you're talking about doing is putting 2/3 of the front of your house in concrete and then covering city right of way to have the curb cut go all the way down and then put a little sidewalk around it. And then we have the neighborhood of the front yard parking lots, which is kind of what Title 18 and the master plan are trying to avoid. So granting this variance is, when you can't make findings for the variances, this would be probably something the city would be disinclined to do, I would hope.
Well, if the city, if it were going to be easy, they would have already approved it. So I went through a lot of time and money to try to apply for variance, to try to do it the right way, to achieve something that I think is reasonable. There are many other examples. I didn't even include all of the examples of driveways that no longer connect to a garage.
No,
There are dozens of those in the area. We just put some examples in of people that have little tasteful pavers out in front, which is all we're asking to do as well. Those plans were made back in the day when this neighborhood had a bunch of full-length lots from the front to the alley, and people had driveways in the back, they had garages in the back. It is no longer like this in this neighborhood. This is not realistic anymore. There are lots of examples of these lots being split. So there's a house in the front, a house in the back. That's what my neighbors across have, one of those parking pads. There's a house behind them, completely separate lot. People don't have driveways in the back anymore. They don't have garages in the back. So this plan that was put in place 30 years ago, it no longer applies. You know,
I understand what you're saying about the Plumas neighborhood plan and whether or not it applies, but there are several things that have happened to your neighborhood, prior to your purchasing your house, which is that it used to be transitional, it used to be single family, there used to be things in code about it has to be developed like single family if it was. Anyway, now it's Midtown mixed use. The whole different set of rules that apply to anything you want to do. Your property is now non-conforming because zoning has been changed. Before you bought the house, the zoning was changed. 2017. So I'm not disagreeing with you, you know, it's to park right in front of your own house, but I couldn't support it because you can't make the findings for the variance without setting a precedent for continuing to
For the next
variances
people.
for non-conforming properties, which right now
Yeah,
is.
so everybody, I'll just pause right here. Everybody can have a different opinion. Okay, there are rules for a reason. This is the, where we are today. It's interesting. I don't know about this kind of variance. Other kind of variances, that we have denied have gone to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has denied them because the findings for variance are very tight. You have to have a hardship and it has to be demonstrable and there's a whole series of things. We've had people want to put up signs within 100 feet of I-580, which is not allowed. They claimed a variance. It was enough. I mean, we voted it down at council 5-2. They wanted to sign. I mean, you can't blame them for wanting to sign, for wanting to make more money, whatever. And there've been numerous examples. So I'm just saying, I don't know if those are the same variance findings that applied to signs that applied here. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just think people should write what you think. The planning commission will have to make a decision here.
So I know that a lot of the kind of arguments coming behind this was trying to push for kind of more policy reform and looking at just more green infrastructure and sustainability in those practices, especially since she's using an electric vehicle and then commuting by other active modes of transportation. These are transportations that we're wanting to promote in the future to have in our.
A what? What did you say?
I'm just saying, a gas car works with those in electric for our environment. That's not really relevant. It's so.
Yeah, it's just more of kind of future sustainability, like what was mentioned before in the previous variance and not variance, but other project that was just brought up with Starbucks. So it's just trying to promote more of these things so we can look at more longevity of what we're going to be doing, what kind of people are we going to be bringing in here. Tesla, other big electric vehicle entities are coming to Reno. They're supplying more electric vehicles. They're becoming more of a need. That infrastructure has to follow.
Well, I think you should become an advocate and go to your council and they'll be rewriting Title 18 in the near term and master plan in the near term. And that's what happened in 2017 when a lot of these things got tightened up. We don't want cars, so we just won't make parking places. It's the law. And it changed. Advocate. I mean, I'm sorry to say it.
I know that's what it is.
I would actually like to encourage the council to consider changing some of these things, because I'm not the only one. Obviously, there are all these other parking pads in the area exist because the homeowners want them. They're there for a reason. That's what people want. And so it should be looked at that maybe there's a reason for that and maybe things should change. Not just for me.
Question. Dave Tinsel for the record. I can't read, what is the distance between the property line and that house?
It is 1610. So that's just where the house is per property.
So are you asking, so the request would be to park on city property or?
So the request is to add the driveway apron to be able to have the access off the street to be able to park in the front of the property. Right now, we should be able to fit a car on this part of the property and it's not going to overhang onto ADA sidewalk, city right of way, should not interrupt the flow of anything that is going on there. it's plenty of distance to be able
So
to
you
fit
have
that
30
car.
feet of concrete that covers almost the entire front of the house.
So from property line to the city right of way has to be concrete per engineering department. And then from here over is the pavers.
So you have 30 feet of solid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's unavoided to be able to provide that access unless I could do the driveway apron and just put another rock, but then you're looking at. And you're looking at this, you're looking at more rock and it's another argument of you're disrupting the front yard aesthetic to put something else in to make it accessible.
You've got 600 square feet of essentially parking pad and driveway apron, which is the same size as your second house.
Well, there's some examples in the photos that come up, what I think are relatively tasteful, paver. I wouldn't want to put something ugly in front of my house. I was arguing with Christian, I'm trying to make it all pavers, make it pretty. But some of it has to be concrete, I guess, for the city rules. That's no worse than having a driveway, you know, the neighbors down the street have a driveway going into their garage, that's concrete. I'm trying to at least make it look better than that.
Well, I appreciate that you're working hard to work for the system.
Trying to do right.
Just a really quick comment, Chris Montana for the record. I'm new here, but after last month's meeting with the ADUs, all of the arguments about finding big places to park that are not on the street. This is great. And this looks like something that's trying to address that too, because there's issues on any of those streets to park.
And even if it's not arguing policy of improving green infrastructure, it's even just policy enforcement. So if we're looking at these other examples that I provided that did not go through the proper process to get this done, how are we enforcing that policy to be done? Because
But let me ask just
So-
speculatively.
yeah,
So these other parking pads, we don't know if they're electric cars or not. They needed off-road parking or another car.
So somebody's like, this is my neighbor across the street.
Uh-huh.
There is another house, totally separate, split
Understand.
lot behind them. So there's no, that's.
No, but I
they have
mean,
no driveway.
They have created a driveway regardless of the type of car.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna play both sides of this. I've been one of the strongest advocates for our sustainability plan, et cetera. That's me. But I'm just gonna say what you were trying to say, which is if you start filling up everybody's yards with cars, regardless of what kind of cars, that changes the character of the neighborhood. You see a lot of that even in Sun Valley, a lot of cars parked every which way. It's the county, they have different rules than the city does. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying the difference in style, that's why they have planning. They're trying to create a certain ambiance. They want you to have something out front, you know, whether it's xeriscape or regular scape, whatever.
and
So,
yeah, so I just urge that if anyone is gonna continue to do this, because I agree with your point, we don't want to fill front yards with driveways and cars. But if people have to go through this process in order to be able to do that, they have to be able to give the same arguments, if not different ones, than we are giving here to be able to have that installed. And so it just falls back into that enforcement of the policy of
Right.
ensuring all of these people are following that process.
Well,
In order to get
do
that.
you happen to have a picture of the of your house? Did you include that?
No.
It's just, it's a brick, 60-year-old brick house.
I mean, this is, you're kind of.
Well, and I
I've
know
lived
that.
in this neighborhood for 25 years, and I have a good handle on the problems in there, and I really sympathize with you, but. This was single family, then it was not single family, now it's midtown. I mean, it's gone through a lot of zoning changes, so to try to do this now, you actually just can't make the findings, and I think. I don't know if there's any other avenues for you, I'm sorry to say, but, I really hope you advocate for some changes in the law, in the process.
Yeah.
I don't know, your whole neighborhood has this.
Yeah, especially since two of these examples follow that same precedent of they have the alley access, they're not split into two different properties within the between the main road and alley. So they have that argument of their parking is from the alley. They should not be putting in the front parking pad because they have that access.
I mean, it's an enforcement case.
And
Just like we enforce on fences that are too tall.
So
You
where
gotta
is the
focus
area,
on it.
where is the place on your property that staff said that could be another parking space that wasn't the same one that's currently used?
But they were talking
They're
about,
talking about between the two houses, I thought they said. you
Yeah.
could utilize the area
Between the two houses.
which he already talked about, where there's a grade change, and also you would be blocking our car in
Access.
behind the tenant's car.
Okay, well, I think we should kind of wrap it up. Is Sean, you have something? No, I mean, let's just.
This is Sean McCoy for the record. For me, the more compelling part of your argument is the use of a residential spot in the back. We're dealing with a housing shortage. That to me is a stronger argument than I purchased a vehicle knowing I didn't have a direct place to charge it. I have an electric vehicle. I did the research before I got it to make sure I knew where I was gonna charge it, where I was gonna plug it, maybe, so I had a spot to do that. That argument doesn't really work for me as far as this is a compelling reason to allow it so that you can charge a hybrid vehicle in the front yard. We're making the best use of what's in the back and getting more people in. And so in order to do that, I need to be able to also park here. So anyway, for what it's worth, just wanted to let you know from your argument standpoint, that's what was more compelling.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more comments, questions from anybody? No? Okay, thank you very much. Good luck tomorrow. And on to the next thing, which I've lost the agenda. What's the next thing?
German?
Member reports and announcements.
Oh, there you go. Okay, item D. Board commission committee number reports and announcements. Anything there? I'll just announce that ADUs are going to the planning commission tomorrow night. If anybody cares or wants to make additional comments or ask them for recommendations or anything, it's happening tomorrow. Yes.
Quickly, we all as NAB members, did you all get an email from the Parks Department about an educational seminar on April 29th? I believe we got a second email. We should have, a second email saying, never mind, I sent that in error.
Oh, yeah.
Council, is there any input on that? Is that?
No, apparently a consultant that works with parks happened to be in town, is doing a seminar. It's a 3-hour seminar. I'm not exactly sure what it covers, but it's about future visioning of parks and how to fund parks, fund them, and the public good. That's what I've seen nothing more on it.
Okay. So they have pre-announced it. Okay.
We've been uninvited.
No, I think that they wanted to, strategically set the table in a different way when they do invite you to explain more what the talk is about and why you might want to come. I think they just wanted to restart the process. And I'll just be honest, a gal that was going, I mentioned to, the Nevada National Guard, she sent it on her last day. And so I don't know that it had gone through all the vetting that you need. She's just trying to clear the desk before she's gone for a year and a half, so. Bottom line.
All right, thank you. And next, anybody have anything for future agenda items like to see discussed? Anything that slow and play? Nothing? I'm still interested, and I requested this some long time ago about hearing about the redevelopment agency.
Okay, so put that on the list.
That was, to explain how all this actually really works. Okay, any final public comment from anybody? Yes.
Open up and down.
Yes.
So I want to introduce myself since new to the NAB and I don't think anybody really introduced ourselves.
No.
So you know who I am. So I'm just gonna tell you
Thank you.
who I am. So I'm Mike Ginsburg. I'm an alternate member. My family came here in 1914, so 111 years ago.
Wow.
We have a clock down in City Center, City Plaza that actually has a Ginsburg name because it was in front of Ginsburg School.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
What?
I can't really hear you.
So there's a clock in City Plaza, Ginsburg name on it, because it used to sit in front of Ginsburg Jewelry. Also home furniture. I've been with NV Energy, last month was 40 years. Distribution design manager, so what we do in a nutshell is anybody that needs power to something, we figure out how it gets there, do the designs, the estimates, the costs, the parts pieces. Been married for 35 years. I have 3 daughters. They all went to Collin Ranch School, Reno High School. Couple grandkids. And so my background is I was of the city of Reno, Neighborhood Advisory Board, Ward 1. For 7 years, I was the chairman for most of those years. So the Parks and Rec Commission just termed out December, 12 years of that, 2 6-year terms. Fall Ranch Homeowners Association for 10 years, been officiating high school swim meets for the last 21 years. Been doing triathlon for 32, 27 years. I've been running the Reno area triathletes, but biggest feather in my cap is I spent 17 years on Sierra Nevada Community Aquatics. We're the group that brought the new pool, helped bring the new pool to Moana, so it only took us 17 years to do that. So I just wanted to say the reason I do this is involvement in the community. I've been doing it a long time. I really do enjoy hearing about the development stuff, hearing about stuff that happens outside of my neighborhood. So I want to introduce myself.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I started to do that not last time, and I realized it was a long day, and then I failed to do it this time, I think. And I didn't know, Pat, do you want to introduce yourself too, or wait till next time? Or wait till next time. I don't
It was
recall.
a really fast.
It was very brief.
Yeah.
It was like, what's your name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can make this up.
All
We
right.
based it off your application, so that's the reason why, but yes,
All right. So
we didn't know his name.
any other public comment?
I'll introduce myself next time.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Move to adjourn.
So moved. You may want to introduce yourself next time too, Sean.
Okay, item G adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a
Sean
second?
Coyle, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can you just tell me who made and seconded that motion?
Made by Audrey
I
Keller.
can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Hear me now? Judy?
Very faintly.
We'll tell you on the chat.
Okay, thank you.